a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill's show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's going to be a wild day today. You're not going to want to miss this morning's show. We've got some updates coming in from what happened to Nancy Pelosi yesterday. The executive committee of the Jefferson County Republicans met last night, and it was interesting. If you remember, Nancy Pelosi's leading the effort to try to call for Dave Williams' resignation. It may have backfired here. So
you had said it early on that, do they have the votes? You questioned, do they have enough? Because, as you know, we talked about it yesterday. If you don't bring a bill, you don't bring a bill to the floor unless you know you have the votes.
That's exactly
Same
right.
Thing here.
And my critique too was, who do they have waiting in the wings?
Yeah.
Because part of, look, if you're going to oust the chairman of the Republican Party here in Colorado, it's going to go one of it could go actually a million different ways. I mean, you could have somebody worse if you don't like them,
or you could have somebody that says that's like the front running candidate, but then everyone says, wait a minute, the previous chairman didn't get to fulfill the entire term.
Yep.
And the previous chairman for that only served one term. This seems like a short-term gig. Maybe I don't want it. And the odd thing is, some of this plays into, in some ways, I was talking to someone yesterday about my oldest son, Max's soccer team, Manchester United. They're dealing with their head coach, Eric Ten Hag. They've decided to keep him, but it was a long, drawn-out process, and pretty much they came to the solution of, we don't have anybody else that's better. And so they had floated, they had reached out and done feelers to some other higher-profile coaches out there, and to a T, all of them said, no, don't want it. And so they eventually said, well, it was the most sad and unsupportive announcement ever. It was kind of like, well, we looked around for someone better, but I guess we're gonna have to date for another year.
That happened in my marriage.
My wife goes through that weekly.
right.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for. Well, no one's come back.
Exactly.
We'll just stay with Jeff.
Yeah. It's like, my wife keeps checking that thing about, is it really say death do us part? I mean, do we really have to go that long? There's no expiration date here.
So Nancy Pelosi leads this effort to try to oust Dave Williams, the chairman of the party, and there's no one that they promote to take it over.
Yeah.
They don't count the votes. So the Jefferson County Executive Committee had some words for Nancy Pelosi. We'll get into that and more today. We're also going to be covering the abortion pill decision that came from the U.S. Supreme Court with focus on the family. What does that mean? Yesterday's decision, does that mean that there's a constitutional right to an abortion pill? Or was it dismissed on procedural challenges? We'll get into all of those. Plus, have you seen the vandalism taking place on Pride streets, Pride flags painted on streets? Maybe don't put symbols really important to you on roads.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Weird.
But
when you put it the place where the tires and the feet go. Okay. It's weird. It's just a strange decision. Okay.
And then in the 9 o'clock hour, Jerry Sonnenberg is going to join us live in studio. He's a candidate for Congressional District 4. They're getting down to the wire. Their voting happening now. And he would like to explain why he's the best to lead Congressional District 4. So Jerry Sonnenberg in studio, the cowboy himself.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great show today. All 4 hours are going to be awesome. So stick around with us. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, TGIF guys, 63 and cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the mid to upper 90s today. Actually, that's the mid 80s today. It's going to be a little cooler today on Flag Day and former President Trump's birthday. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up as rain would really help slow the fire in Lake County. Our top story, a semi-truck driver who's accused of causing a deadly crash near Conifer on Tuesday has been arrested. It happened on US 285 where the semi flipped over and spilled heavy metal pipes on the highway, one of which landed on a nearby car and killed the driver. The Colorado State Patrol has identified the trucker as Ignacio Cruz Mendoza, and he faces charges of vehicular homicide and vehicular assault. We've talked about this all week. The Colorado GOP has unanimously called for Dave Williams' removal as GOP chair after an email criticizing Pride Month. Stand by because Jeff and Bill will be talking about that. A federal judge in Louisiana has blocked the Biden administration from enforcing new federal protections for LGBTQ students. The preliminary injunction issued Thursday prevents the administration from implementing new protections that were set to take effect in August. President Biden at the G7, and there were about 20 uncomfortable moments on Thursday.
That includes Mr. Fink. I call you Larry. I'm calling you Mr. Fink. But we go back a long way. BlackRock and Mr. Nadella of Microsoft, an outfit that we know well home.
There are so many things in there. I'm giving it 31 days. Just a wild guess. They'll force him to step down, or he steps down, or something else happens. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen with Kamala. Who knows? Maybe she's the VP for a few months. Crazy time.
They have a much bigger problem being able to find who's going to be that replacement than Republicans did. If Republicans wanted to go down that road, they don't necessarily have to, but if they wanted to, you got Ron DeSantis, who would, I think, pull everybody together. He'd do a great job. People would be excited about it. What does the other side have? Kamala, Jarhead Polis, Gavin Newsom? I don't know.
Oh, it'll probably, I'm thinking it's Gavin Newsom and someone else. Who knows?
Dude, that would be
crazy.
A man who failed his way to presidency.
Yes.
He was the mayor of San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And we know how well that turned out. Mm-hmm. The governor of California, we know how well that turned out. Yep. And then
such a fraud. He'd be perfect for them. Wisconsin Republicans are defending former President Trump after it was reported he criticized Milwaukee during a closed-door conference meeting on Capitol Hill. Punchbowl News reported that Trump called Milwaukee a horrible city. Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden said Trump was specifically referring to the crime rate in Milwaukee. On Thursday, Trump met with GOP leaders on Capitol Hill.
Great meeting. There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party. We want to see borders. We want to see strong military. We want to see money not wasted all over the world. We don't want to see Russian ships right off the coast of Florida, which is what they are right now. That's unthinkable. We want to see just success for our country. And we don't have success right now. We have inflation that's killing everybody.
You know what? Come to think of it, he's probably attacking Paul Ryan, right? He's from Wisconsin. Isn't that right, Jeff?
That's right.
Okay. Yep. So Ryan was critical of Trump yesterday. He said he was unfit to be president. So,
I don't get this still fighting these battles, man.
Yeah,
I was with Paul Ryan, worked for him to try to get him to be the vice president of the United States. Mm-hmm. Hung out with him in Colorado Springs. He's a believer and all this. And then the primary's done, guys. The primary's done.
But wait, Paul Ryan was the one who wouldn't stand up to Biden in the vice presidential debate, right?
Yeah,
wasn't that Ryan?
That's exactly right.
So
he lost.
Disappointing.
Exactly.
God, horrible. He's just like your boy Romney.
You're never going to let me live that down.
No, I can't, man.
But look, this is part of the calculus that's happening here. I saw this from The Economist the other day. Democrats have gotten more liberal. They've gone harder to the left. And you end up with these Republicans who are still like, well, we got to negotiate with them. And what that means is you're constantly inching the country to the left. So if the Democrats are getting more liberal, they're going that direction, and you end up with these kind of Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney Republicans that are going, well, the best way to do is to negotiate with them. Well, then you're constantly moving the country to the left. Yes. What we want and what conservatives want are fighters right now that are going to stand for conservative principles. We're not going to apologize anymore and pull the country back the other way. So,
saying I think that's why you're going to have a lot of people still supporting Dave Williams, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll let you guys get back to it. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Rocks start a 3-game series with the Pirates tonight at Coors. The Celtics could win their record-setting 18th NBA World Championship tonight. The Florida Panthers have a chance to win their first Stanley Cup tomorrow night. It is 60 in Littleton, and let's see here, 58 in Broomfield, and 63 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Friday. My favorite Friday song. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. Partly cloudy skies, seasonably warm in the mid-80s with a good chance of showers and thunderstorms today. Some are going to be severe. Watch out for hail, heavy rain, and gusty winds. Thunderstorms ending late. Lows tonight near 60. Highs will be 80s to near 90 Saturday. Low to mid-90s Sunday. Isolated thunderstorms this weekend, otherwise partly sunny. Still warm Monday, cooling off quite a bit by Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines are open if you want to give us a call. We're going to get to Mary and Jay here in just a second. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Unlike the other shows, you are welcome to be part of the conversation here. You're going to go tune into them. The other shows, you're going to get news written by some guy in a newsroom in New York City, or listen to a monologue about how they feel about an issue. But we want you to be part of the conversation. So dial in on this Friday morning and let us know what you think about all the news happening out there. By the way, also, the show broadcasts on YouTube, Rumble, and X, so you can see our smiling faces. If you
you can. We kind of we're in the same color theme today. That doesn't happen often. We're both in blues, kind of blue. I got a tealish thing on it. That doesn't happen often. It's kind of nice. Yeah.
There you go, twinsies.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Mary in Wyoming. I love Mary. She's got a great voice, great perspective. Mary, thanks so much for calling into the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning. And when you're talking about Newsom as the potential thing, it's going to be Michelle. I hate to say she gets all the things. I mean, think about it. I mean, that it would allow Biden to be able to drop out, pardon his son, and he doesn't have to do any more rallies or appearances or anything else like that. He can say that he will do it and stay until the end of his term, so that Kamala does not get in. And then, like I said, he would also draw a lot of the brown and black people back over. I mean, it hits a lot of notes.
Here's the one question I have for Mary. I don't think your analysis is wrong at all. I think it will appeal to a lot of people. But the one thing that holds me back is I've never seen Michelle Obama really engage in policy battles, right? Like actually go to the mat to try to drive something forward. Her husband did Obamacare. He's a politico, all that stuff. But I don't see it with Michelle Obama. Help me understand how she would want to go from living such a life of luxury at this point to having every national conservative talk radio host bashing her on a daily basis.
I sure hope that they have a plan in place and how they're going to address that. And I have to agree, she doesn't have it, but that isn't about this point. It's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
In other words, and she wouldn't, and not because of her ability to run the country. It's a matter of the ones that, what do they call it? The Trump syndrome people. I mean, it'll be just about a popularity contest.
Well, Mary, what gives you the impression that Michelle Obama wants the job?
Oh, she doesn't.
Well,
but
then hang on a second. Then why would she take it? Because I hear this a lot. And the weird part is I hear 99% of this conversation about it's going to be Michelle Obama happens in conservative arenas, not Democrat arenas, not liberal arenas. It's a constant story. It almost has become, for me, almost like a bedtime story that conservatives are telling their kids that you just wait, Biden's going to step down and Michelle Obama's coming in. And I think it is incredibly important when you say she doesn't want the job. They can't draft her. They can't force her to take the position. She has to agree. And if you don't think she wants the job, why would she take it?
Her husband is already running the country. He is.
No, he's not. No, he's not, Mary. No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Okay, hang on a sec. Let's walk through that.
It definitely isn't Biden running.
Mary, hang on a sec.
Who do you think is running the country? Because it isn't Biden.
Hold on a sec. We can agree that Biden may not be pulling all the levers, but the answer to that question isn't Barack Obama. And the reason I'll tell you why. Hang on a sec. Wait, the reason I'll tell you why is this. Okay. Why in the world would anyone, as a previous president, take all of the stress, all of the decision making, all of the pressure with none of the glory, none of the credit, none of the good stuff? Barack gets all the
crap. Their agenda.
No, there's no way.
I kind of agree with Mary on this one. I don't think Barack. I don't think Barack just kind of sailed off into the sun.
Where's his policy institute? What has he done?
He left his people in place of all the high cases in the decision making.
No, he didn't.
He sure did.
Joe Biden got to name his own cabinet. He didn't leave all his people in there. Did Joe Biden draft a bunch of other Obama people? Yes. Can we say there is Obama influence in the White House based on previous policies? Yes. But I can't wrap my head around the idea that someone would actually take control and say, I'm going to be the leader of the free world and not get any of the perks. That doesn't make any sense. He doesn't get the salary, doesn't get to go out and shake the hands. He doesn't get the credit, doesn't get the statues, nothing. This is Joe Biden. He
never left Washington, D.C. He moved right down the street and set up an operation right there.
But set up an operation for what? For what, Mary?
To run this country.
No, he didn't. Stop it.
Yes, he did.
Mary, I love you, but there's nothing that shows that happened. He doesn't have a policy institute. He doesn't have anything.
I'm more with Mary on this one. I think he's secretly pulling all this.
Again, this is a party that thinks secret things are being done to votes. Secret things are done to policy. I mean, again, with respect,
secret things being done to former chefs at the Obama.
That has been proven not to be true. I mean, again, but that's a conspiracy theory. Remember, the chef dies of if he drowns in the water, and now it's like, oh, someone killed him. Like, come on. I mean, really,
Billy, I love you, but you will not concede to that there's any kind of conspiracy going on. You just like with all these trials that are going on and all the people that trotted the White House and then those DAs and etc. You will not acknowledge. You said there's no proof.
I acknowledge conspiracies.
If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck.
I'd love to know a conspiracy that Billy believes in. What's a conspiracy, Bill?
Yeah, I believe in the conspiracy and I'm talking about genuine conspiracies where behind the scenes Donald Trump tried to overturn the 2020 election. That was a conspiracy. They put things together and they put it forward, and it's true. And everybody on the right says, no. Donald Trump wasn't doing that. He wasn't putting fake electors in because he knew the election was stolen. He wasn't discounting his own studies that his campaign paid for that said the election wasn't stolen. He wasn't pushing a false narrative. He wasn't calling secretaries of states because he was trying to overturn election. It was all, air quotes, concern about, air quotes, election integrity. And that's crap. It was a concerted effort to overturn the election. There's a conspiracy. The right thing's a conspiracy that I think is true. Yes, it's absolutely true that he's tried to overturn a free and fair election. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. And so that's the thing is we need to be able to...
Anytime it's Trump, it's a conspiracy.
No,
but nothing that to do with Biden and his administration.
No. Again, you're discounting everything. If you want to show me one that seems credible, absolutely. But the things like the Burisma doesn't work based on timeline.
The idea that finding that had tripped out to the White House. And then, like I said, and then all this stuff that's coming out. All this
DAs
law.
get trip to White House. What? I mean, you're talking about the Georgia people, but we should be able to Freedom of Information Act those meetings and those meetings. And in fact,
they've documented those.
Yeah, I know, but
that Wade and those guys had done that.
But they haven't. You know what they haven't done?
Too.
But they haven't documented. They haven't documented that Joe Biden is telling the state attorneys general to go after his political opponent. They haven't documented that. In fact, the DOJ has just returned a request to the Congress of saying we want all the communications between the DOJ and the New York Attorney General's office of Alan Bragg over Colangelo. We want everything you guys discussed about him going there. And the DOJ is like, we got nothing other than, hey, I'm leaving, I'm taking the job. We got nothing. There isn't a single other email they've got.
And
that's it. You just got to show it, man.
The belief that the most important political conversations are going to be done in email. The only way they got Trump on the Manhattan case was because what's his name secretly recorded it.
Well, here's the thing:
you don't have emails there.
Well, then why are the Republicans in Congress requesting them?
Because they want to go through the process to see if there's anything there.
Then why they requested them? So they thought the conversations went there. So again, but here's the idea:
but they're just doing research.
I know.
What's wrong with that?
Again, there's nothing wrong with it, but your assumption right there said, well, they shouldn't have even requested them because no one will talk about an email.
I'm challenging your assumption that because it's not written in an email, it didn't happen.
Well, if you can show me the conversations, recorded conversations, then I can be convinced.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to be convinced it did happen beforehand. I'm not going to come to the conclusion before I have the proof. That seems fair. That would seem reasonable. That would seem rational to not come to the conclusion.
Your willingness to dismiss Matthew Colangelo, though, bro, that gets me. Where I'm like, a guy goes from number 3 in DOJ down to prosecute Donald Trump, and there's no conspiracy there to go get a political opponent.
In a video game that I play for almost a decade with my boys, the global community manager just downgraded his employment to come back to the company. He was at a much higher position at another company, much larger than this one, and just returned because he liked the company and he wanted to go back and hang out with his friends.
Yeah, but
that
in this
could
case,
still be the same thing.
This was going after the chief Republican nominee. This isn't just a downgrade of a job.
So, okay.
This is a downgrade of a job that includes targeting the chief Republican nominee of your political opponent.
Now, Mary, I'm going to ask you and Jeff a question. Okay, let's assume that Colangelo wants and has in his heart the desire to prosecute Trump. He wants to get Trump. So he leaves his job, downgrades his position, and goes to New York. Okay? I'm going to give you a second. Both of you, please explain to me why that's Joe Biden's responsibility and why he's responsible for that. Why did he make that choice? Why did Joe Biden make that choice for Colangelo?
Why do they waited until all these years until the actual running of the thing? And even Matthau, she's even said that if Trump dropped out, all this would not have happened. Was that Mary, not a conspiracy?
Let's come back to my question on Colangelo. The assumption here is that Colangelo was directed by the Biden administration to go and get Trump. Let's assume that Colangelo really wants to get Trump.
Yeah.
Show me where
there's a lot of evidence for that.
Okay, but show me where he was dispatched by the Biden administration. Because guess what? If Colangelo really, really wants to get Trump and wants to downgrade his career and go into New York to get Trump, that's okay. But guess what? That doesn't prove the Biden administration is out to get his political opponent. That shows
it's
the
not
dude
Biden,
is doing it.
It's his administration. I do agree.
How is
Colangelo? Who were under Obama?
Hang on.
In other words, those people are...
Explain to me how when one guy wants to get Trump and leaves the job to go get him, how is that the administration doing it? That's one dude. It's one guy.
No. And
Yes, it
I'm
is.
saying he's part of a cabal of them at that administration.
What
Yes.
cabal?
Mary's right on
No,
this.
she's
They're
not.
all in on it.
She's not right at all. There's no cabal.
It's
You can't
not
prove
just-
a cabal. You can't even show me a
It's
cabal.
not just Biden. It's under his administration. Biden himself is diddly squat. It's the people that work there. They talk about Rice still being involved in it, and none of them are on
Who's they
are
talking about?
getting
What
the
Rice?
check.
What do you mean? I don't understand what you're talking about.
Susan
what do you mean?
Rice.
Was a
Susan
big
Rice.
one on
No,
and,
but you say
and,
she's
I
still
mean, they
talking.
talk
But Susan
about,
Rice is still involved in what and doing what?
it's part of the decision making and the policy making that's going under Biden's administration. Those people are still involved.
So what?
And I
Again,
just find
again,
it strange
again,
that
that
they
goes back
waited
to-
until.
But hang on a sec.
And
Okay, wait. Hang on. So what? Every other administration pulls people from previous administrations from their party.
Right.
I mean, for God's
But-
sakes,
but
Bill
that
Barr.
goes-
I
Bill
like how
Barr,
you do
Bill
that.
Barr has
I
worked
like
in
how
others.
you do that. There is no proof.
But
No,
you
hang
know,
on. Mary, you're coming to a conclusion based on the fact that this person worked in his previous administration, so obviously there's corruption. That's crap.
what I would like to point out is that I
It's
think this
his
all
agenda.
proves Mary's
Obama's
original
agenda.
point. I'm going to go back to Mary's original point that Barry Obama's still involved in it all.
There's no way.
There is
No way.
absolutely there's no way these guys just ride
There's
off into
no
the
way.
sunset.
Okay, so,
Mary, I really appreciate the call. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
so do you think that George Bush's father was actually running his son's presidency? 110%.
I
So you think that George
I
Senior
think-
was in the background and that the
100%.
young guy was, and so he was doing all the machine.
100%.
Really?
I think that
Okay.
Iraq was
Really
to avenge his father.
Well, hang on, that's different. Avenging the father is different than George
See,
George
and that's-
Senior
that's
pulling
where-
the strings. I asked you if you think that George Senior was doing the exact same thing you're accusing Obama of.
So here's what I'm accusing them of.
Who else has done this?
Right,
I mean,
the-
how many of does every previous president get to go? And if
But
the person comes up, is that what happens?
But you make this leap from being influential in the administration to pulling all the strings and making all the decisions. I don't think you have to make that leap. I think
Yes,
you can say that they're heavily involved in shaping the direction of this administration and that they don't go away. I don't think they all fully go away. I absolutely think H.W. Bush was still involved in guiding and shaping his son. And I think the war in Iraq was to avenge his father.
Okay, but I'm going to go back to words we've been using. Guiding and shaping is different than in charge. And you said Barry Obama's in charge. That's different than guiding and shaping. It's a totally different construct. And if you want to say guiding and shaping, sure, I can get to there.
Okay.
But the idea
Well, then
that he's
let's settle
actually
on
making the decisions behind the scene, he's micromanaging and he's doing all the stuff he has to do as president, that is complete and total crap.
Yeah, I would agree with you
ridiculous.
on that. I don't think
That is
I don't think
ridiculous.
he's doing the day-to-day operations,
but
but I think
that's the
they're
assumption.
heavily influential in it, though.
Sure, but there are lots of people that are heavily influential that are in and out of the administration.
Right.
In fact, Biden right now is talking to Jeffrey Katzenberg, who's not even in the administration, and he's a filmmaker. In SKG, he's the K in that film company. And what he's trying to do is helping Biden based on messaging and stuff for advertising and what's going on in the campaign. So he's being influential. Is he running things? No.
But
it's
see,
totally different. It's totally different.
So I want to take that exact notion and apply it to Colangelo.
Okay, sure.
So do I think that Biden is directing the day-to-day operations of Matthew Colangelo? No, but I think he's influential in the decision that was made for Colangelo to go from the number 3 position at DOJ to go prosecute Donald Trump.
You can feel that way, but people can feel that a lot. You have to show me something that he directed it, that he made this happen, that he said, hey, go and get this. And again, why, if your boss came to you and said, hey, you're the number 3 guy at the DOJ, and I'm going to downgrade your employment over here to New York and go do this. What's the payoff? What's the payoff for Colangelo?
I think there's tremendous payoff for it.
Okay, so
I think he will be forever known in Democrat circles as the dude that got Trump.
You can't. Alvin Bragg did. That's his. Alvin Bragg.
I think it'll be both. I think it'll be both.
No,
but I
it'll be
don't
Alvin Bragg
think
led it.
Alvin Bragg's smart enough to do it. I think it required Colangelo.
I disagree. I think Colangelo had to be in his bonnet and went and did it. That's kind of what I looked at, and probably also made the decision because his buddy was back in charge and he probably liked the idea of going back to New York and return to the place that he was before. I came back to KNUS after leaving for a while. I was here a couple, 15 years ago. So I came back here because I like the people that are here. And I did that too. People do that. It's called boomeranging. Happens quite often. It's not unusual. But what I disagree with was ascribing nefarious notions to it.
Lots of text messages coming in on this conversation. Mary and Inglewood. Billy thinks if there's no proof, there's no corruption. Does he really think career politicians would make corruption easy to prove?
Yeah, let's talk about Gold Bar.
Keep
Gold Bar's
investigating.
Bob. Let's talk about Gold Bar Bob. Like, he made that pretty easy.
I'm still confused as to why he gets prosecuted, but every other politician that accepts checks in order to deliver legislation doesn't.
It's a great question.
Simply because one is a personal benefit to a bank account, but the other one's career benefit by getting elected.
Yeah.
I still don't get that.
Absolute crap. You're absolutely right. I would 110% agree with you. Yes.
Andrew, sorry you have to take this alone, Billy. Too funny. They are so desperate for conspiracy from Biden when they have one from Trump right there with proof. LOL.
Yeah, it is. The thing that gets me is just the assumption that Michelle is coming out of the wings. I get it, because if that was going to happen, she could be a huge player, but there's nothing in her background that shows she has any desire or want to be.
I agree with you on that.
Since they've been outside of the White House, she hasn't done a single basic policy thing other than feel good stuff. I mean, there's nothing. She hasn't gotten any fights. She hasn't started a policy position. She could have started a think tank. She could have done. I mean, look at the difference in behavior of what Hillary has done versus Michelle. Totally different. Hillary's always inside of policy.
Yes.
So Hillary wants that job. Hillary's still pissed that she lost that job. She's still mad at Trump. She still can't come to a grip with herself that she lost to Trump. She can't acknowledge that personally. She wants this so bad, we can see it. But it's not Michelle. No. Not in any way, shape, or form. Nope. So, and she's going to have to agree. The Democrats can't force her to run. So that's the issue.
So in 2006, I'm working for Rick Santorum in Pennsylvania, and Bush is in the tank polling wise. He's so far down. Yeah. This was the anti-Iraq vote. This was the one where Democrats took over everything. You know who they pushed out?
Who?
Laura. Everywhere.
Oh, geez.
George W. Bush didn't go do a single thing that election,
and
sense. Laura Bush came out and run. But but to leap from, okay, we're going to push out the wife to go do some positive campaign little events and that type of thing, to we want you to now be the nominee of the party. That's such a leap. That's not going to happen.
No, there's no way.
So they're kind of doing the same thing here. Joe Biden is so far in the tank. Who are we thinking else? Well, it's Michelle Obama. Well, Michelle might go do some some events here and there, but the idea that she's going to become the nominee and deal with people like me and Hugh Hewitt and Dennis Prager and Charlie Kirk and Sebastian Gorka spending hours every day trying to pull apart her policy perspective. She's not going to want to do that.
And remember, last time, what were the critiques of Michelle Obama?
She's a dude.
Yeah,
that's the critique.
I know, and that's the thing is that's how debased the critique of her was. That's how disgusting it was. I mean, think about that. Think about what would happen if the Democrats came out and said, Melania is really a trans dude. She's not really. She had a sex change when she was younger.
They were pretty.
Oh, I understand.
Pretty mean to Melania too.
And they were. But what I'm saying is, think about how you react to that. Think about that perspective. And when the Democrats do that, it's absolutely untoward. It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so same thing out of bounds. But I still hear, and we will probably get a text this morning, Michelle's a dude. We'll probably get it from someone out there. And they're certain of it. They're convinced of that.
I will tell you the one thing that I find questionable and all that is I haven't seen a picture of her pregnant. There was for a long time, there's a movement online, at least in conservative circles, that there's not a single picture of her pregnant.
Well, I mean, did you expect her to share family albums? I mean, again,
I don't know.
The weird part is this.
It's kind of weird.
Not really. Not in the least.
I don't know. Most of the women in my life are very happy to take pictures and show off their baby and all that stuff. And
again, the issue would be when that happened, based on when and where we were in social media.
Yeah.
When their babies were born, we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have that stuff. That wasn't around. So the idea that we didn't overshare, we didn't take pictures of the food we were eating. We didn't take a picture of our cat coming up and talking to us in the morning. We didn't do that. So the idea that we didn't have access to the entire Obama family album, I don't think I ever saw a picture of Laura Bush pregnant. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I saw a picture of Hillary pregnant that I can think of. I can't think of that ever. So maybe, maybe, Chelsea Clinton's actually just adopted or some stolen Chinese baby.
Let's go back to yesterday. Surrogacy.
Exactly. Oh,
the
God,
debate.
don't do that. Oh, that hurts my head.
Lots of Michael runs another birth.
Way too many.
Yeah, Michael runs another birth certificate controversy. Not her, Michael who. Jacqueline, well, it was publicly announced by Joan Rivers, and I think it was by accident, and it was recorded. And 2 weeks later, Joan Rivers in the same medical clinic as Michelle dies. Huh. It was Joan saying stuff about it? Is that where it all started?
I don't know.
All right. Want to talk to you about Roll 'em Out shelves. I've gotten to know Joyce and Brent Tolliver. They're absolutely incredible people. We got Roll 'em Out shelves installed in our house about 2 weeks ago, and they are great. I use them every single day. It's so nice to be able to pull them out and reach things that are in the back because we have deep cupboards, and we would have things that would get kind of shoved back there, and we'd forget about them. And we were cleaning out our cupboards a few months ago. We had like 10 jars of the same icing because we forgot that they were pushed back, and we were constantly buying them over and over again. So it's so nice to be able to simply open the doors and pull out or roll them out shelves and be able to access everything easily without having to reach back and pull things out. And oh my goodness, our life has gotten so much better. And Joyce and Brent Tolliver are really nice people. So you get to work with great people. It's like kind of having your mom or brother come over. They embrace the values of this station, a pro-family, pro-America, and pro-faith. They're just great people. So check them out because you're not just supporting a good company in Colorado, you're supporting people that support the values of this radio station, which I really appreciate. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. 303-475-9601, rollemoutshelves.com. All right, we'll get to Jay in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. The G7 leaders, including President Biden, are holding talks on China on day 2 of their summit in southern Italy. They're being joined by guests from outside the group, including Pope Francis. Charles Gibson has more from Bari.
The members of the G7 are concerned about what they describe as Chinese industrial overcapacity and the effect of cheaper imports on their economies. Meanwhile, Pope Francis has made the trip down south from the Vatican to take part in discussions on the risks of artificial intelligence. On Thursday, the leaders reached a political agreement on issuing a $50 billion loan to Ukraine using the profits of frozen Russian assets in the West. In Bari, Giles Gibson, Salem News Channel.
The US government has been criticised at an inquest into the death of a British teenager killed outside a US Air Force base. Harry Dunn was knocked off his motorbike and died outside the base in the English Midlands in 2019. US government employee Anne Sakoulas was driving on the wrong side of the road when she hit the 19-year-old. The coroner at the inquest criticised the lack of driver training given to Americans at the base. Sakoulas initially fled the country claiming diplomatic immunity. She was later sentenced for causing death by dangerous driving. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Well, we lit up the text lines this morning there, Billy boy.
Thank you so much.
Somebody wants you to be the president.
That person is drunk. That is ridiculous. I can't be in charge of anything like more important than an elementary school talent show. There's no way. You can't put me in charge of anything. I'm barely in charge at home of anything other than just myself.
So to give folks a little peek into what it's like to be Bill and I, you have calls for Bill to be president and calls for Bill to be fired, all coming in on the same text line.
In the first 20 minutes of the show. That's great.
All right, let's go to Jay and Sterling. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning.
Sorry about that.
I got a couple of questions, which I don't have the answers for, but you guys are very more knowledgeable than I am. Now, I have suspicion, but I don't know. But a person that nobody likes has to figure out a way to get into power. It doesn't matter if you're a second grader, high school, or whatever. But in that whole aspect, if there's a war, and I don't know the answer to this, if there's a war, the sitting president stays in office if there's a war at stake at the time. Is that correct? And how does that work?
No, there's elections. We're not like Ukraine.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, isn't there, though, if there's a conflict in the country, the next president cannot step in until the conflict is somewhat over?
No. There's still free and supposedly fair elections. Supposed to be.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that was something I remember back in the days.
I think they changed. I think they changed that after FDR, but they put in term limits. But he didn't stay in because we were in a war.
Yeah, he still was elected.
He was still elected.
Yeah, they still ran. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Jay.
Well, I apologize, guys.
No,
guys. Hey,
have a great weekend. It's great to hear your voice.
To this point, when Jay asks a question, it's probably because somebody else has a question. I mean, look, never be afraid to ask questions. That's a good one, Jay.
Oh God, no! I ask several stupid questions every day.
Well, go back to Mary and surrogacy. Not going back to Mary and surrogacy. Not going back to Mary and surrogacy.
And for Doug, that's one of the topics, Doug. That's one of the ones we're talking about. I don't have the strength.
Doug messages in before a show. Do you guys ever see a story and think, I don't have the strength to deal with that one today?
Today would be surrogacy.
But I mean, to that point, this is what Michelle Obama would have to deal with, because it's just the nature of our political debates. And I mean, Stormy Daniels is out there discussing what Donald Trump's private parts look like.
Oh yeah.
And this is just it's the nature of politics. And that's why I think Michelle's like, I won't go into that. Are you kidding? I've got Martha Vineyard, Oprah's my best friend, you know?
Yeah. And she has piles and piles of cash. I mean, never has to work again. That's the other thing, is she is living a life where she doesn't have to work. She can get up whenever she wants. She can take a vacation for as long as she wants, anytime she wants, anywhere on the planet, and not worry about the price tag. She can do anything. She can take a middle of the day nap. She can wake up at 4. She can start day drinking at 9. Doesn't matter. So you would trade that to go ahead and go to the White House based on that schedule? And she's been inside the White House. She understands the stress. She understands what happens. She understands that's a 24-hour job.
That's why I don't think it's happening.
There's no way.
When we come back, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is Friday in the Mile High City, and it's time for the loser edition of You Choose the News, Billy.
Yeah, it's that time of the morning. Oh, that's the wrong one. This is the one that we have to play. It's time for the loser edition of You Choose the News, the stories that were deemed unworthy earlier this week.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Loser!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser. You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, it's the loser edition of You Choose the News, proudly not sponsored by Rollermount Shelves. They are a wonderful mother-son team. They will come to your home and do a free in-home estimate to solve your clutter problems, kitchen, bath, garage, wherever it is, those pain points, they have a custom-built solution. They're fantastic. Free in-home estimate at rollermountshelves.com, but proudly not affiliated in any way, shape, or form with You Choose the News because they're a reputable company and they're not involved in anything that's silly or stupid. Alrighty, gentlemen, Blake Olson, Jeff Hunt from the Jeff Hunt. Here are our stories that you have to choose from yet again. Headline number 1, unexpected expansion. Headline number 2, self-fulfilling prophecy. Headline number 3, think of it as a tip. And headline number 4, retail law enforcement.
Let's start with retail.
Yeah, retail law enforcement. This comes to us from Farmington, Massachusetts. If you're shopping at TJ Maxx or Marshall's, you might notice something of retail law enforcement because they're experimenting with having employees wear body cameras.
Nice.
They've seen such a rash of theft that they're trying to use this as a loss prevention. That if you're seen walking around the store and we have very good video of you and just like the body cams and watch you steal the stuff and then walk away, you then have more evidence to turn over to the police when they show up, showing exactly how you behaved, exactly what you're doing, exactly what you were stealing.
You know what I think we should do? Go back to putting the 10 Commandments up in schools. Thou shalt not steal, you nitwit.
I'm not sure that stopped it before either. All right. Hey, Blake Olson in the newsroom. Your choice this morning. Unexpected expansion, self-fulfilling prophecy, or think of it as a tip.
Unexpected expansion.
Yes,
Billy.
this was an unexpected expansion. We're going to Richmond, Virginia here. In the heart of South Richmond's business district, there is a KFC Taco Bell hybrid restaurant that serves a steady stream of hungry customers. You can dine in or take out. The only option not there is delivery. Well, up until recently. Brianni Jackson is a regular there. Recently, while she was in to pick up her quick lunch on the go, she all of a sudden was struck with unfortunate stomach cramps. She runs into the bathroom, and that's when things got scary. She looked down, saw she was bleeding. She's crying. She calls her husband. Her husband works a couple of blocks away. He's on the phone. She's screaming, crying. Here's something happening. Oh no. She had a baby.
Oh, wow.
In the Taco Bell bathroom. The fun thing is, they didn't know she was pregnant. She had no idea. Yeah, she and the husband had no clue. Again,
baby doing well?
I have a lot of questions about that. Baby's doing just fine, but I got a ton. The thing is, when the baby came out, the first thing the husband said is, I don't hear crying, I don't hear crying. And she looks down, she goes, oh, the umbilical cord is wrapped around the neck. She took it off.
Oh, boy.
Took a big breath, big giant scream. Everything's good.
You know who gave birth in a car on the way to the hospital?
Wasn't it Nicole? Was it
Lauren Boebert?
Oh, Lauren Boebert did. Okay.
Yeah, she gave birth to her 4th child, I think.
Jeez. All right,
on the way there.
Final story. Self-fulfilling prophecy, or think of it as a tip.
Think of it as a tip.
Yeah, think of it as a tip. Hospitals are gobbling up doctors' offices all over, along with certain surgical clinics that are satellites. What they're doing now is giving you a hospital facility fee. Yes, if you go to the doctor's office, it might be a regular doctor's office that now is belonging to the hospital. They're going to charge you the extra couple $100 as if you went to the hospital, because that seems totally fair. Yes, that's actually what they're doing. Yeah, they are boosting their
nickel
hospital.
and diming at every
exactly.
angle.
That's the end of it. You Choose the News, probably not sponsored by Rollermount Shells. Back to you.
All right, in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to discuss this Supreme Court decision. We'll give you all the facts. What does this mean with regards to abortion pills? Not going to want to miss it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights into whether or not Michelle Obama is a man. It's another beautiful day.
Turn your head and cough. How many hernias are we checking for, doctor? Sorry. It's been one of those mornings.
Didn't plan the show to go that way, but here we are.
Here we are.
It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. In just a second, we're going to get an update from Focus on the Family as to what happened yesterday at the U.S. Supreme Court in this abortion pill decision. Did they legalize the abortion pill? Did they make it a constitutional right? Did they ban it? What all happened there, or was it just a procedural decision? We'll be diving into those details. And what does this mean for the upcoming election as well? Nicole Hunt, yes, my wife. She's the pro-life analyst for Focus on the Family. And I'm not just bringing her on because she's my wife. Salem recommended her as a pro for all these issues. So it's just very easy to just go, hey, honey, can you join us to provide this rather than go through the whole rigmarole of booking a pro?
Easiest guest booking ever.
Yes, that's right. And
Yes.
my wife is the real pro.
Yes, she is.
So we'll get to her in just a second, but let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 65 and cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s today on Flag Day and former President Trump's birthday. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up as rain would really help slow the fire in Lake County. Our top story, a man is dead after he fell down a steep slope, possibly 300 feet at St. Mary's Glacier near Idaho Springs Thursday. Rescue crews called to the scene at around 2:20 in the afternoon and called in a helicopter. However, rescuers found that the man had died when they reached him. A semi-truck driver who's accused of causing a deadly crash near Conifer Tuesday has been arrested. Colorado State Patrol identified Ignacio Cruz Mendoza as he faces charges of vehicular homicide and vehicular assault. The crash happened on US 285, where the semi flipped over and spilled heavy metal pipes on the highway, one of which landed on a nearby car and killed the driver. We've talked about this all week. The Colorado GOP has unanimously called for Dave Williams' removal as GOP chair after an email stating that God hates pride. This story continues to develop. Stay tuned to Jeff and Bill. Former President Trump says he understands the struggles the Biden family has had with their son. He said it's a tough thing for the Biden family. He went on to say that he's experienced addiction issues in the past with his own family and met with GOP leaders on Capitol Hill on Thursday.
We have levels of inflation that nobody's seen for, they say 42 years, they say 53 years, and they say 75 years. I would say probably all of them are wrong. Probably we've never seen levels like this before. And we're going to end that. We're going to bring back our jobs. We're going to bring back common sense to government. We're going to have strong borders, and we're going to have people come into our country, but they're going to come in legally. They're not going to pour in from prisons all over South America and all over the world. And it's not just South America, by the way. It's all over the world.
President Biden at the G7 summit, and there were some good things, but there were numerous uncomfortable moments for the left on Thursday.
President Biden, did you all have a chance to discuss a possible ceasefire?
Yes.
Are you confident it's going to be done soon, sir?
No. I'm not, I haven't lost hope, but it's going to be tough. Thank you all so very much. Appreciate
This concludes our press conference. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, the video was far worse than the audio, believe me. Later outside, he turned around. He was standing outside and started wandering off toward a field. He's like a burger franchise. He's in and out.
That's a good one, Bill. It's amazing. You know, Democrats are always the party of the youth, and
Yes.
they are stuck with this guy. That's
Isn't that
just amazing to me.
Yeah, and he's not only old, but he's white, and he's a man.
Right? Yeah, great point.
Crazy.
Yeah, like the
Okay.
most horrible, like oppression. We're
Right.
gonna put that guy in.
Absolutely. Hey, you asked for it and you shall receive. Here's the Joan Rivers sound before she died. Going back to what you guys were talking about. She gets out of her car after coming from a gay wedding in New York City and then drops a bomb.
Miss Rivers, how are you? You made a ton of news officiating the wedding in New York yesterday. Is this like a new cottage career move for you?
I am so excited.
Okay.
And I should do very well because I don't charge.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman
we
president?
already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. It's okay.
It's okay. She's just a trans, and it didn't look like a stand-up. It did not look. If you watch that video, it's pretty convincing.
I can't believe you found that. Oh my god.
Yeah, man.
Dude, they all
nice job,
know
that
stuff. What was I watching a Bieber thing on Diddy the other day? They all know stuff, man.
Oh, they do. Absolutely. Watch it. I'm telling you, it's pretty convincing. You know, the way I look at it, I mean, he was so politically savvy, Obama. He didn't want to be the guy that ushered in LGBTQRS and have parties where they're taking off their shirt on the White House lawn, bringing in everything that you could ever imagine known to mankind when it comes to this stuff. And then he gets out. And do you think Biden really cares about this stuff? So he's doing it from behind. That's why I agree with Mary in Wyoming. She knows what she's talking about. So, all right, there you go. You have it. Rocks started 3-game series with the Pirates tonight at Coors. Celtics could win their record-setting 18th NBA World Championship tonight. The Florida Panthers have a chance to win their first Stanley Cup tomorrow night. 61 in Highlands Ranch, 60 in Lafayette, 65 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Friday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. Partly cloudy skies, seasonably warm in the mid-80s with a good chance of showers and thunderstorms today. Some are going to be severe. Watch out for hail, heavy rain, and gusty winds. Thunderstorms ending late. Lows tonight near 60. Highs will be 80s to near 90 Saturday. Low to mid-90s Sunday. Isolated thunderstorms this weekend, otherwise partly sunny. Still warm Monday, cooling off quite a bit by Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. Here's your 710 5-day forecast. Partly cloudy skies, seasonably warm in the mid-80s.
You know, many people think of us as a radio show. We're not just a radio show. You can see our smiling faces on YouTube, X, Rumble. Just go to 710knus.com or search 710knus on any of those outlets.
Can't wear hats. Stupid camera.
We get up we shave, we look good.
Dude,
we're ready to go.
Do you know how long it is since I've cared about what my hair looks like? And now every day, every stupid day, I'm getting too old for this stuff.
So check that out if you want to see us on those video programs. Yesterday, the U.S. Supreme Court came out with some big decisions. This from the Wall Street Journal. Supreme Court rejecting abortion pill challenge preserving wide access to the drug. The Supreme Court on Thursday unanimously rejected an effort to restrict access to the abortion pill mifepristone, preserving for now the widespread availability of the most common method American women use to end their pregnancies. The case was the first major abortion issue to come before the court since its 2022 decision overturning Roe v. Wade and rescinding the federal constitutional right to the procedure that it had recognized since 1973. That ruling bitterly divided the court over constitutional views on individual rights and set off a series of state-level battles that have expanded abortion access in the Northeast and Pacific Coast while largely outlawing the procedure in most of the South and parts of the Midwest. But Thursday's case, filed by the Christian conservative group Alliance Defending Freedom on behalf of doctors and groups that oppose abortion rather than anyone who had been harmed by the drug, turned on procedural questions involving the right to sue. In that arena, the most ardent opponents of Roe and its most determined defenders found common ground. To provide some analysis for us is Nicole Hunt. She's a pro-life analyst. She's also an attorney with Focus on the Family. Nicole, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Happy to be here.
So let's dive into what happened yesterday on the in the U.S. Supreme Court. Give us some analysis here.
Sure. I mean, I think the first most important thing to take into consideration as we talk about this is that it was a unanimous decision, which means you have constitutionalists, conservatives who are agreeing with the more left side of the bench that there was an issue here with regard to standing, and that ultimately that procedural question, that threshold question, was not satisfied, and therefore they couldn't consider the actual merits of the case that was being brought forward about how the deregulation of the abortion pill has harmed women.
Hey, actually, Nicole, I'm going to put you on hold just for a second. I'm going to call you right back. I've got a little bit of crackling in your line. I just want to clean that up if that's okay, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Sure.
Hang on, I'll call you right back.
Should be joining us in just a second. So what does this mean for kind of the future of the pro-life movement? You know, the pro-life movement's been struggling since the fall of Roe v. Wade. Gallup gets into this as well. Gallup recording that a record share of U.S. electorate is pro-choice and voting on it. Democrats continue to rally around abortion rights since the Dobbs verdict. A record high 32% of U.S. voters say they would only vote for a candidate for major office who shares their views on abortion. The importance of a candidate's abortion stance to one's vote is markedly higher among pro-choice voters than it was during the 2020 presidential election. So things are changing on the ground there. We got Nicole Hunt back from Focus on the Family. So I want to ask you, what does yesterday's decision mean for the effort to deal with this abortion pill and those that are opposed to it?
Okay, so the most important thing to keep in mind is that this was a threshold question, which means that in order to consider the merits of the case, which is the argument that the ADF and the pro-life doctors were making, which is that the deregulation of abortion pill, mifepristone, is harming women, the court had to ask the question first, do the doctors have standing? And as a reminder for your listeners, this is a legal requirement that a suing party has to establish in order to get to the merits of the case. And so here, the doctors, they had to show that they were harmed, that the harm was a direct result of the FDA's deregulation of the abortion pill, and that injury could be remedied by the court moving in a favorable direction towards the doctors. And so ultimately here, Justice Kavanaugh was saying that the plaintiffs here, the doctors, they didn't meet that standing threshold. And primarily, and I think this is an important note to take here, that the reason why they didn't do that was because there were not conscience harms against the doctors. And so one of the arguments ADF made was that the doctors were being forced to violate their own consciences and perform abortions on women who were suffering from injuries that they sustained after taking an abortion pill and then showing up in an ER room. And so what the judges ultimately said was that, these connections were a little bit too complicated. There needed to be a direct harm. And so what the pro-life movement can look at and see here as an example of how to move forward is that we need to get plaintiffs who are directly harmed by the abortion pill drugs. And the truth is the prime candidates for those types of plaintiffs are the women themselves who are harmed by the abortion pill. And so if we look at the label of mifepristone, on the label itself, it says roughly 1 in 25 women will have serious complications that require a visit to the ER. Given those statistics and the number of women who are taking abortion pills, that means that there are a lot of women out there who end up in the ER who could bring this case forward. And so that's the ideal candidate for who's going to pick up this mantle and take this case forward. And because the merits were not ruled on, that's exactly what should happen and likely what will happen.
Talking with Nicole Hunt. She's a pro-life analyst and attorney with Focus on the Family, dissecting the Supreme Court case yesterday. So you called this when you were listening to the oral arguments. You wrote about this. You thought that there was very strong possibility that the court would reject this on standing. This was a little unique for Focus on the Family because for Alliance Defending Freedom, because they normally catch this stuff ahead of time. Do you think this was a strategic mistake to bring this particular case forward?
I find it interesting because ADF does have such a great success record at the Supreme Court that they brought this forward without including women who have been harmed by the abortion pill. I don't know if it was possibly trying to play out potential legal theories that they wanted to see whether or not the court would be interested in buying into. What we do know, though, is that there are organizations standing by, states actually standing by, ready to take up the case and move forward. So I know pro-life states of Idaho, Kansas, and Missouri are all seeking to take up a challenge based on harms that women suffered in their states. So I know this case will move forward. It's going to move forward on a different legal theory, the theory that, the women themselves are being harmed and now they're coming and asking for justice from the court. I think it's very interesting. Another amicus brief that was submitted in this case by Students for Life of America, they actually made the case that there are environmental harms to endangered species because women are taking these abortion pills and then they're being told to expel the baby once the baby has died and then has been expelled from their body into their toilets and then flush that down into the water system. And so they have a very interesting and different legal theory, which is to come after this, that this is a violation of the Endangered Species Act. So I think there's a variety of different theories that could move forward. Obviously, we want a healthy environment because that protects all of our own health. And then we want our daughters and our mothers and our wives who might potentially take these pills to not end up in the ER because they're not safe. So any of these theories are legit and they should be pursued.
Nicole Hunt, pro-life analyst with Focus on the Family, joining Jeff and Bill live. Appreciate your time. I want to go a little bit further back into one of your earlier explanations, and I want to focus on standing. When Jeff and I were discussing this yesterday, we had a text message of someone that was very confused about why the Supreme Court will reject this on standing and what exactly it takes to have standing. You touched on it briefly, but could you just kind of, because you're in it to do a Simpsons reference, you're the law talking lady, not Jeff and I. Can you talk to us about what you have to have in order to have standing for the case to move forward, please?
Yes, absolutely. So standing, and particularly when you're bringing this before a federal court, you look to Article 3 of the Constitution. And in Article 3 of the Constitution, it says that there has to be a harm. So in this case, the doctors would have had to show that somehow they were harmed by the deregulation by the FDA of the abortion pill. The second thing is that the doctors would have to show that the harm was a direct causation of the FDA's actions. And then the third was that they would have to show that if the court ruled favorably in this matter before them, that remedy could be achieved, that they could, bring justice to the injury that was caused to the doctors. And so what I think is very interesting about, for example, one of the reasons or one of the arguments that ADF made, which was the conscious violations, was that initially at the beginning of this case, the government was arguing that federal law did not protect doctors from being forced to participate in abortions against their conscience. So this is how the case started, which is one of the reasons why this was an argument for standing that FDA was making, was that I'm being forced against my conscience, or I would be forced against my conscience to perform this abortion. And because I'm an ER doctor and these women are coming into the ER, somebody needs to treat them. Therefore, I am going to have to treat them even though I have a conscious violation of performing abortions. And so what was interesting that happened was that throughout the case, basically once the government got to the Supreme Court, they changed their position, claiming instead that doctors would not be forced to participate in abortions. And why this is interesting is that in the past, the administration has chosen to pursue that argument in other places. So for instance, there's going to be a Supreme Court case that we should be finding out about soon about EMTALA, which is about the federal law that would require, the federal government is arguing that it would require that doctors and hospitals perform abortions in ER rooms in states where there is a pro-life law in place. And one of the arguments that was being made in that case as well had to do with the conscious protections of doctors who do not want to have to perform abortions, and whether or not EMTALA would force them to have to violate their consciences. So this is potentially a wink and a nod from the Supreme Court that we might see more of this similar language, and a reiteration of the Supreme Court that the federal government cannot in any way force doctors who are pro-life to perform abortions against their conscience. So that is a win-win, and it is a silver lining in this case that otherwise is a little bit of a disappointment, right, to the pro-life movement, because we would have liked to have seen women and girls protected from the deregulation harms of the abortion pill. But barring that, what we do see here is that the religious protections, conscious protections of doctors who are pro-life are being reiterated and affirmed by the Supreme Court, which is very positive.
We did get a text message here. Why didn't the Supreme Court reject this on appeal outright on standing?
You know, I think that there was more that needed to be done here with regard to the discussion of, on one hand, what we just discussed, the conscious protections. Because as I mentioned, it wasn't until it got to the Supreme Court that the government changed their position on whether or not doctors would be forced to perform abortions. So I think this was one of the things that the Supreme Court wanted to get at more fully. I think the fact that they haven't got to the merits of the case, of course, means that this is very ripe for reconsideration. We just need to get the right parties in place so that we can have that conversation.
I want to change subjects here to the Gallup poll that just came out this week. Record share of U.S. electorate is pro-choice and voting on it. Nicole Hunt, pro-life analyst for Focus on the Family. You saw that survey that came in from Gallup. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think it's just a reflection of where we are nearly 2 years after the Roe v. Wade case was reversed. I think many of us in the pro-life movement expected there to be some pushback. And this is what happens when, for example, there's a legal change in the law, but culture has not caught up to it yet. This is, I think, a prime example of what's been happening at the ballot boxes across the country in 7 different states that have considered abortion-related ballot measures.
And we lost her. She dropped off. We'll try to get her back in a second. What's fascinating about this study, though, is that among independents and Republicans, pro-life, pro-choice hasn't changed that much, but among Democrats, they've gotten a lot more pro-choice. In fact, it's an animating issue for them. In fact, it's the top issue for Democrats right now is the abortion issue. It is the number one thing that's driving them to engage in this. So, they're getting more pro-choice out there, and this is going to affect upcoming elections. In fact, in the state of Colorado, we're going to deal with a ballot initiative this November that's going to ask not just for Coloradans to have unrestricted abortion, which we already have, but it's pushing past that. They now want taxpayer funding of abortion, and that's going to be the primary issue. Billy, we get her back? Is she back?
Now she is.
All right, Nicole, you're back on. Okay, so tell us about what this means for upcoming elections here.
Yeah, I think this is just a result of the pendulum swing because the law changed so quickly, and culture will take time to catch up to that. So as we're looking at this next election cycle, we've already got 4 abortion amendments that have qualified for the ballot. We'll have potentially another 7. And then we've already had 7 in the last couple election cycles. And so I think what we're seeing ultimately is a reflection of the fact that it takes time to change cultural opinion on abortion. This was an immediate reaction to abortion being overruled as a constitutional right in Roe. And we're seeing, obviously, many states step up to protect life. And the abortion industry has wasted no time in using that as an opportunity to advance the cause. I would encourage anyone who's pro-life who's listening and perhaps feeling a little disheartened by the numbers. The first thing I would say is if you look at that poll, it also showed that a majority of Americans support some kind of restriction on abortion. So while it might be the case that more of them are identifying as wanting to vote for candidates who are pro-choice, Last year, the same Gallup poll showed that 64% of Americans thought there should be at least some kind of limit on abortion. This year, that number dropped by 2 percentage points, but it's still 62% of Americans that think there should be some limits on abortion. So I think what we can learn from that poll is that there is this middle ground of Americans who maybe aren't comfortable with completely legalized, unrestricted abortion. And then there are those who would like to have life protected at all. But in the middle are a lot of Americans who feel like there should be some limits on abortion. So there's a silver lining there. And then the other thing I think we should keep in mind is that changing cultural opinion on abortion will take time. And I've often used the example of William Wilberforce, who was the British politician who led the parliamentary effort to abolish the slave trade. And he labored along with all those that were working with him in the Clapham Act for nearly 50 years to bring about the end of slavery. And they worked diligently in the face of many setbacks to change cultural opinion and business practices, and then finally the law. Well, for us, it went backwards. The law was changed, and now we've got to work to change cultural opinion on this. And it's going to take time, but I would argue that the pro-life community, if there's anything that they've shown, is that they will persevere. The last 50 years has shown us that, and that they are in this for the right reason. They're in it to support women, to love their families, to help them have community, and most of all, to empower them to make decisions out of hope and not out of fear.
I want to talk about the Colorado Ballot Initiative. You sit on the board of Pro-Life Colorado. It's an umbrella organization for about 50 pro-life organizations in the state of Colorado. This is a new frontier that's going to be tested because this is about public funding for abortion, and they have to reach a higher threshold to get this to be constitutional in the state of Colorado. They may not be able to do it this year.
That's right. So Colorado's right to abortion amendment, it was citizen initiated, which means they collected signatures in order to get it on the ballot. And so they have already qualified. And what we do know about Colorado that really makes it different than any others is that in terms of measures that are being considered, is that it's a measure that would basically repeal the prohibition on taxpayer-funded abortion, which means that here we are, Colorado already has a statutory right to abortion. This measure would make it a constitutional right, which, as a reminder, is harder to change. You could get a new legislature in and they could change statutes, but a constitutional amendment is a different type of battle and different type of fight. And so it would make it a constitutional right, which secures the right even more firmly, but it would also be completely unrestricted, right, up until just before birth and for any reason. And we know we already have women coming to Colorado to get their abortion. So it would also potentially mean that taxpayers here in Colorado are funding abortions for women who could be traveling from out of state to come here to get their abortion. So it's a much different story than what's played out in other states like Ohio, for example, last year. Here in Colorado, a supermajority of 55% approval is required in order to change the Constitution by adding in the right and also to repeal the prohibition on taxpayer-funded abortion. So I think what makes Colorado interesting is that there are a lot of folks who might be not interested in getting involved in abortion, but they don't necessarily want to have to pay for abortions. And so this potentially could turn out folks who are even pro-choice or pro-abortion, who don't like the idea of having to pay for other people's abortions.
Now, that's interesting. Nicole Hunt, pro-life analyst from Focus on the Family, joining Jeff and Bill live. I want to explore that a little bit because, okay, I have to admit that for months now, I have been unable to figure out why they're trying to run the constitutional amendment for abortion. Because one, we have the laws. We seem to be, at this point, a liberal state. They seem to have everything they want. And I feel that in this election cycle, it's a turnout mechanism. You want your side to turn out, and you know, as well as Jeff knows, that issues are better for turnout than candidates are. So I feel that that's why these abortion amendments and abortion laws are going to be run in a variety of states. It didn't make any sense at all why they're trying to run it in Colorado. They don't need the turnout. They've already got the laws they need. I want to go back to your idea about how this can create public funding for abortion. That to me is like a light bulb. It's like now I see the narrative. Now I see what they're trying to get to. They're trying to be able to use taxpayer money that they're prohibited from using now. Can you talk us through how, if it gets to a constitutional amendment, how it opens up the bank account for the taxpayer to now subsidize the abortion procedures that are going on right now?
Yep, I can. And I would argue that because there isn't just a straight, because we really don't need this constitutional right to abortion. It's already guaranteed statutorily. I think that, yes, it's a turnout to try to turn out voters. But of course, once you've turned them out, once you've changed the Constitution in a state, you can't keep doing that every year to reiterate there's a right to abortion. So you get to do that. You get one bite at the apple on that, right? And so I think not only is this about turning folks out, but I think their inside polling must have shown that there was not going to be enough support to repeal the prohibition on taxpayer-funded abortions by itself. So they needed to couple it with the right to abortion, to constitutionalize that, in order to get enough yes votes to repeal the taxpayer fund on abortion. So ultimately, I think that's why they got coupled together, was the polling did not show that there would be enough support to repeal the amendment. And then secondly, what would happen, as soon as there is no prohibition on taxpayer-funded abortion, what would happen is the next time the state legislature comes into assembly, they would pass a measure that would allow for taxpayer-funded abortion. Right now, they wouldn't be allowed to do that.
That totally makes sense. I couldn't figure out, but that absolutely makes sense, because the messaging on, hey, we want to take your taxes and pay for this. And you think very accurately, regardless of where someone sits on the spectrum of abortion, even if you're very pro-abortion, the idea of taking more of your tax money in order to subsidize it is a little less palatable. That's really fascinating, because it totally makes sense as far as why once you get into the Constitution, then they can turn around and start funding it during the next legislative session. And if they continue to hold the number of votes they have right now, I mean, you lose one Republican seat, you got a supermajority in the House. And so
that's right.
Wow.
That's
okay.
Right.
Oh, you're hurting my brain. Wow. Nicely done. Dang.
So let's talk a little bit about this upcoming election. There's a number of other states that are going to be running pro-abortion legislation. Can you talk about, or ballot initiatives? Can you talk about what other states are going to be seeing, especially in this upcoming election this November?
Yes. So I think one of the most important states to look to. So there's 4 states that have abortion measures that qualified for the ballot, including Colorado. Beyond Colorado, and by the way, I think Colorado is a very, very important state to look at, because it's possible that there could be enough folks who don't want to have to use their taxpayer dollars to pay for abortion that measure doesn't pass here. 55% is a pretty high threshold. So this is where a lot of people should be looking to Colorado to see what happens here. This could be one of the very first wins, the very first win for the pro-life movement when it comes to ballot measures since Roe was overturned about 2 years ago. The other state that we should be paying very close attention to is Florida. Now, in Florida, they got their amendment on the ballot through citizen-initiated efforts, which means they went around and collected signatures. And what's interesting about Florida, and why I think that the abortion industry has a bullseye on Florida, is that they, as we were discussing, Bill, this is a mechanism to turn out people to vote for candidates. And so I think that, first of all, they would like to, stick it to the governor of Florida, the abortion industry would. But second of all, Florida has a supermajority threshold for passage. Ours is 55%. Theirs is 60%. So that means 60% of the people who show up and vote that day have to vote in favor of the abortion amendment. Now, their abortion amendment isn't nearly as extreme as ours is, but there is a 6-week heartbeat bill that's in place, a law that protects life there. So that helps to turn folks out, because they have a pro-life law that's currently on the books. But what makes Florida interesting is because that threshold is 60%, it's going to be very difficult for the abortion industry to meet that percentage. However, if they can turn a red state like Florida into an abortion haven, that is going to be a feather in their cap. And I think that they're going to think, okay, if we can do it to Florida, we can do it anywhere. So I imagine that they are going to sink a ton of money into Florida because they are going to want to turn a pro-life state that has a heartbeat bill in place into an abortion haven in the South. Because let's remember, a lot of those states in the South, they have pro-life laws in place.
Wow.
And they like to see Florida turn.
And I can see the 60% threshold also being, again, if you market it properly, being a motivator for turnout, and you're trying to get more Democrat votes, from their side in Florida. And if you lean into the idea that, listen, we got to hit 60%, you not turning up that day means that we could end up losing this. That could be an incredible motivator, again, if the Democrats are smart enough to use it right.
Right. Yep. That's true. Now, another state that I find interesting that maybe your listeners haven't heard about is South Dakota. So South Dakota also has an abortion amendment on the ballot. It was citizen initiated, so they collected signatures, and it also is not as extreme as the Colorado measure, but the threshold for passage there is only a majority vote. And so right now, of course, current law protects babies throughout the entire pregnancy there, allowing an exception for the life of the mother. But again, it's another very pro-life state that they're trying to flip and have it, again, become an abortion haven. And then the other state where it's for sure going to be on the ballot is Maryland. And it came onto the ballot as a legislatively referred ballot measure. And that's when the two houses, or the House and the Senate at the state level, pass it, and then it goes straight to the ballot for the people to vote on. And so there, it's a majority vote in Maryland. They've already got current law there allows for abortion until viability, and then at any time for the health of the mother. So they already have a pretty looser restriction on abortion. So I imagine that passage there is probably not going to be that difficult. But yes, I think the most interesting, where it's already qualified for the ballot, that we should be paying attention to is Colorado, Florida, and South Dakota.
Nicole Hunt, she's a pro-life analyst with Focus on the Family. So the pro-choice movement has galvanized Democrats. They've gotten around it, and then it's peeled off some Republicans that go, kind of on the freedom argument that I may never do it, but I don't necessarily want to take the restriction from other people. So we've only got a minute or two left. Tell us what you think the pro-life movement needs to do to try to win the moral argument. We're now back at the states. This is no longer at the constitutional level. This is a state by state, even sometimes county by county discussion. What does the pro-life movement need to do to start to turn it in their direction?
I think the biggest thing we need to do is we need to come alongside women and families who find themselves in these unplanned pregnancies and help them, love them, serve them, become community for them. And that's something that I think the pro-life community is doing a much better job at. But that's chapter 2 of the story. It is stepping it up and walking alongside women, loving them, helping them, let them know that they're not alone. The second thing we need to do is we need to continue to pass laws. We need to continue to make the moral argument that there is life. And Jim Daly, who's the president of Focus on the Family, had a piece in the Washington Times just recently, and he talked about how the father of advertising, David Ogilvy, he used to remind his agency workers of this timeless truth that you're not advertising to a standing army, you're advertising to a passing parade. And I think that the pro-life movement needs to remember that, these are entire generations, new generations of young people who are coming up, and they haven't necessarily considered abortion as a moral argument, more of a legal argument. Is this my right? Is it a constitutional right? Then I can do it. And so there is an importance here of continuing to state the obvious truth, right? The truth that life is valuable, that your human rights begin not from the moment that you take your first breath, but from the moment that you are conceived in your mother's womb. You are human and you have dignity, and that dignity carries with you throughout your life. And so these types of arguments and these types of conversations are important to continue to have generation after generation after generation. That's how you change hearts and minds on this issue. Focus on the Family had a really wonderful ad called "It's a Baby" that came out a year ago on the 1-year anniversary of the Dobbs decision, and I would encourage your listeners to Google it. It's a Baby campaign, reminding all of us that we're not talking about a blob of cells. We're talking about a living, real human being that lives inside of a mother's womb, and it's worth protecting.
In fact, tomorrow night, Focus on the Family hosting Sea Life 24. You can learn more about it. FocusOnTheFamily.com/Sea Life, as in SEE, not Sea World Life, Sea Life 24, and great opportunity to connect with other pro-lifers. Again, Nicole Hunt, pro-life analyst with Focus on the Family. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We didn't even fight today or nothing. This has been great. Have a great weekend, Nicole. Thank you.
Speaking of another great pro-life guy, Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan is pro-life. He's pro-family. He's pro-America. He's the son of a police officer and also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. He's also a titan in the courtroom. He's believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S, law.com. All right, want to hear from you. Do you think taxpayers should be paying for abortions? That's what you're going to be asked this November. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Phoenix Police Department officers have been accused of using excessive and at times unjustified deadly force. A report into the findings of a nearly 3-year-long investigation by the Justice Department also accuses Phoenix police of systematically violating people's civil rights. It says that police in Phoenix routinely discriminate against Hispanic, Black and Native American people and blames pervasive failings that have disguised and perpetuated problems for many years. Tesla shareholders have voted to reinstate CEO Elon Musk's pay package worth up to $56 billion. It's the largest pay deal in corporate US history, but was struck down by a judge in January, citing its size. Tony Waterman has more.
The vote is vindication for Musk, but even though shareholders have now reaffirmed his pay package, it does not mean that he will automatically get the Tesla shares owed to him. His legal team still has the uphill task of convincing the Delaware judge that nullified the deal to reinstate it. Speaking after the vote, Musk told shareholders that he loved them and said he could grow Tesla by tenfold again with vehicle autonomy alone. In Austin, Tony Waterman, Salem News Channel.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
We're getting some interesting comments on that discussion.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the U.S. Supreme Court deciding that the standing alone, that the case brought before them about the abortion pill was not right, and so they resorted back. New York Times reporting abortion ruling has nothing to do with the pill's safety or morality. The opinion in the case focused entirely on standing, the legal doctrine that requires plaintiffs to show that they have suffered direct or concrete injuries in order to sue. So this could be back, and 3 states are already bringing cases before the U.S. Supreme Court with regards to the abortion pill. But the discussion, some of the text messages saying it's cheaper to do the abortion up front than to pay for unwanted babies on welfare and health care for the next 18 years. That's a fair argument. You're going to be asked this November as to whether or not you think taxpayers should be funding abortions. Now, you could be pro-life, pro-choice. Where do you fall along that? Do you think that it's right to force taxpayers to pay for it?
That was really interesting because, again, as I outlined when Nicole was here, your lovely wife, I've been trying for months to figure out why. And I hadn't done any deep dive, I hadn't done any research, I hadn't looked at it. I just couldn't figure out why the Dems or liberals would be running a constitutional amendment here. Now it makes sense. Now it perfectly makes sense because then they can circumvent the ban on taxpayer funding for abortions by saying it's in the Constitution. They get to then play money because the one thing that we are certain of is when the Democrats are in charge of the legislature, they spend the money wisely. We've seen that over and over again, right?
$340 million on illegal immigrants in the city of Denver. So what's interesting is there's not a lot of text messages on that particular issue, that you feel so passionate about a woman's right to choose that you think taxpayers should be willing to pay for it. And here's why I don't know if that's going to fly in the state of Colorado. We're this very unique state that's socially libertarian. What I mean by that is we're not socially conservative. We're not socially liberal. We're socially libertarian. Yeah. So that's why you get even some Republicans who go, you know what? I'm never going to get an abortion, but I don't want the government stepping in and making that decision for you.
Same thing with gay marriage.
Same thing with gay marriage. Yep.
That's a real good insight.
Doctor-assisted suicide and marijuana and psychedelics and all that stuff. We're just
marijuana, psychedelics. It's an excellent example.
We're just kind of like, I don't want it. I don't want the government in it. I'm not going to get in it. It's up to you. And that's kind of a traditionally Western ethic. Yeah. Right. We were founded later in our country's history. We were founded by people that were just kind of heading west anyways. Yep. And so that's kind of carried through, but we're fiscally conservative.
Yeah, because you had to be moving out here. And again, when you were back east, there were all sorts of government functions and things you could do. When you went out west, I was like,
you're on your own, man.
They had no idea.
I used to live at one point in a brothel in Buena Vista.
There's got to be some stories there.
There is a story there. Yep. I worked for a ministry that had purchased the old brothel.
Oh, okay.
From Buena Vista.
I'm sorry. My mind went a totally different direction.
And the reason they purchased it, Billy, is because it had lots of little rooms.
Surprisingly.
Surprisingly. And that was the West, right? Wow. Yeah. You had literally like a church, a saloon, and a brothel.
Yeah. Well, 3 most popular things in town. Get drunk, visit the brothel, and confess your sins at church. It's a cycle.
But Colorado's not necessarily a state that's like, we want to build all these social programs. We have the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, all that stuff. So let me know what you think on this. Give me a call, 303-696-1971. Breaking news coming in. Dave Williams is going to join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Nancy Pelosi's been censured by her own county party. We'll get into this and more in the next hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
State Republican Party of Colorado just sent out this email. Nancy Pelosi, the Jefferson County Republican chairwoman, was censured last night by the Jefferson County Republican Executive Committee. Nancy Pelosi, the Jefferson County chairwoman, led the effort to try to call for Dave Williams to resign, but even went further. She was trying to get the executive committee, the state central committee, to force him out. And look at this. Be it resolved from the executive committee of Jefferson County, where Nancy Pelosi is chair. She was on the show earlier this week. She was on Monday. Be it resolved, this resolution renders all the actions heretofore taken by Chair Pelosi on this matter null and void, and all the results and or consequences are revoked and retracted, including petitions and surveys. It censors Chair Nancy Pelosi immediately in her capacity as chair to cease any action and communications related to this matter.
So you're saying she's not coming on the show?
I texted her this morning. I said, come on, Nancy, come on.
Yeah, come on.
But Dave Williams is going to join us.
Oh, great.
Is he spiking the football? Should he spike the football? They came after the king.
And they missed.
They missed big time.
Yeah, Game of Thrones fans will understand the mistake you made there. Yeah.
You got to do all the work ahead of time, and you got to count your votes, and you better be ready to push this all the way through. And they didn't. Is this just contributing to division in the Republican Party? Come on, we're going into primaries. It's going to wrap up in about 11 days, and then it's game time between now and November. Get on the same team. Put on the jersey. Let's go. Or is Dave Williams doing things so bad that he needs to be forced out? I'd like to hear from you. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Dave's next.
a.m. in the Mile High City, TGIF to you. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes and breaking news coming to you here in Denver. This is going to matter a lot. State Party here in Colorado just sent out an email in the last hour. Jefferson County Chair censured. Nancy Pelosi, who joined us on Monday, was circulating a petition calling for the resignation of the state party, Republican State Party Chair, Dave Williams, and now her own executive committee meeting last night to censure her for her actions. We're going to get reaction. And most importantly, we're going to talk to Dave Williams, the state party chairman, here in just a second. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Sorry, I had to turn the mic on. 67 and cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s today on Flag Day. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the large Interlake wildfire near Twin Lakes still hasn't been contained and has now burned at least 578 acres. Fire crews dropping water and fire retardant on the blaze to keep it from spreading, and at least 140 personnel are involved in the effort. It started Tuesday, and investigators say an abandoned campfire near the Interlake Trail is to blame. There are no leads on who left the fire unattended. The semi-truck driver who's accused of causing a deadly crash near Conifer Tuesday has been arrested. Colorado State Patrol says that Ignacio Cruz Mendoza faces charges of vehicular homicide and vehicular assault. The semi flipped over on US 285 and spilled heavy metal pipes on the highway, one of which landed on a nearby vehicle and killed the driver. The Supreme Court is preserving access to the widely used abortion pill mifepristone. Pro-life analyst for Focus on the Family, Nicole Hunt, joined the fellas last hour and said the court needed to see direct harm. The label says 1 in 25 women will have serious complications, and the pro-life movement needs to hear from these women going forward.
Given those statistics and the number of women who are taking abortion pills, that means that there are a lot of women out there who end up in the ER who could bring this case forward. And so that's the ideal candidate for who's going to pick up this mantle and take this case forward. And because the merits were not ruled on, that's exactly what should happen and likely what will happen.
The Denver GOP has unanimously called for Dave Williams' removal as GOP chair after he sent an email stating that God hates pride. This story continues to develop, and Williams joins Jeff and Bill in a few minutes. Stay tuned. It's former President Trump's birthday, and he says he understands the struggles the Biden family has had with their son. He said that it's a tough thing for the Biden family and went on to say he experienced addiction issues in the past with his own family. Trump met with GOP leaders on Capitol Hill Thursday, and then he did a podcast with Jake Paul, which is huge with young people. Trump knows how to work it. He gave the Paul brothers extra time.
Look at these two guys. And then it'll turn out to be a lousy show, and I'll say, you were right, Jason. No, it'll be good. So go for another 20 minutes. Is that all right? Go. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Jason.
It seems to be a nice flow.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Let's go.
Well, you did reality.
I'll be in trouble with my people. Like Biden says, I don't have that problem. But, well, first of all, he would never, he couldn't do this interview. You asked him questions like this?
No, we were talking about that. We were like, we'd like to extend the invite to Joe Biden if he'd like to come on this podcast.
Yeah, I think he should. You know what chance you have of getting him on? I'd say less than 1%.
Here's what Biden was doing.
That includes Mr. Fink. I call you Larry. I'm calling you Mr. Fink. But we go back a long way. BlackRock and Mr. Nadella of Microsoft, an outfit that we know well home.
Wow. Okay, I say the over-under.
Dude, we better not
days.
lose to that guy. Seriously.
No, that's horrible.
Oh,
No
this
way.
Is like
we have to act like we're 20 points down. Honestly,
I know that, Blake. I'm glad you're saying
confident.
that, but my goodness, Republicans, it's a slow pitch over the middle of the plate.
Yep.
And if you can't hit that home and lose the presidency to that guy who can't even string a freaking sentence together,
everyone has to
the
vote.
heck is wrong with our country, man?
Can you imagine when we look at when people? I'll be dead, but when they look at the history books in 50 years. Wow,
Seriously, 81 million votes that guy got.
Gosh, incredible. All right, hundreds of illegal immigrants are gaining experience in entering the workforce in Denver. The city of Denver officially launched its Work Ready initiative. Executive Director Myra Juarez Dennis says the right questions had to be asked before things got running.
We have done research with employers, with unions. What is it that is needed for an immigrant worker to be successful?
The initiative is part of Denver's Asylum Seeker Program, which was announced in April by Mayor Johnston, even though most are just looking for a better life, not asylum. I think we all know that. And there's a system for that as well. The Rockies start a 3-game series with the Pirates tonight at Coors. Celtics could win their record-setting 18th NBA World Championship tonight. The Florida Panthers have a chance to win their first Stanley Cup tomorrow night. 63 in Castle Pines, 64 in North Glen, 67 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Friday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. Partly cloudy skies, seasonably warm in the mid-80s with a good chance of showers and thunderstorms today. Some are going to be severe. Watch out for hail, heavy rain, and gusty winds. Thunderstorms ending late. Lows tonight near 60. Highs will be 80s to near 90 Saturday. Low to mid-90s Sunday. Isolated thunderstorms this weekend, otherwise partly sunny. Still warm Monday, cooling off quite a bit by Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Breaking news, the state Republican Party sending out an email, Jefferson County chair censured. So if you remember late last week and then early this week, and Nancy even joined us on the show, I'd be happy to bring her back, but I'm not sure she's allowed to anymore. She went after and led an effort to call for the resignation of state party Republican chair Dave Williams. Now, it wasn't just a call for his resignation. I think that she was moving with the state central community to force him to resign. And her own executive committee in Jefferson County, not happy. Listen to this. Late last night, my phone was blowing up. I woke up, all these texts at about 11:30 last night. Whereas recently, Chair Pelosi has acted in a matter of much concern for the executive committee. This is the Jefferson County Executive Committee. Namely, she has issued press releases, made radio appearances, sorry, Nancy, and held interviews on the very divisive matter of calling for the state party chair to resign. In addition, she has created and circulated an electronic petition encouraging all of Colorado State Central Committee members to join this matter. She performed all of these initiatives at her own direction without the approval of the executive committee while using the county party's letterhead. That's where I was confused, Billy, on Monday, because remember, she goes, no, I'm doing this in my personal. And I'm like, but your letterhead. What?
Yeah. I'm just disappointed that she can't talk to us. That's the part that for me is like, you can't go and talk. Aren't you the free speech people?
Yeah.
Aren't you the people that complain about everybody censoring you and being canceled? She's just been canceled. But oh well.
She signed during the most recent critical time of our candidates' campaigns in an election season. Be it resolved from the Jefferson County Executive Committee renders the decision that the actions taken by Chair Pelosi in this matter have not been in the best interest of the Jeffco party, its candidates, its supporters, its members, and therefore have been and are not sanctioned nor approved. It renders all the actions hereto taken by Chair Pelosi on this matter null and void. and all the results and all the consequences are revoked and retracted, including petitions and surveys. It censures Chair Pelosi immediately in her capacity as chair to cease any action or communication related to this matter. Wow. And now it's a turn of phrase that if you go for the king, you can't go all the way. They did not. And joining us for reaction is the king himself, Dave Williams, chairman of the Colorado Republican Party. Dave, I know you're running a very competitive primary right now. Thanks for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Happy to be here. It's a pretty important development. And, I guess my reaction to all this is when we actually have this debate with the base of our party, the members who actually make up the values, the foundation, ultimately the people we answer to, then, we're going to win on this issue. And that's what happened with Nancy. I think Nancy jumped the shark, and she's, paying a little bit of a price for it right now. I don't suspect she's going to stop talking to people. She just probably won't, use Jeffco letterhead or say that she's the chairwoman. So, I think their message to her was, hey, you can't be doing this because it's detrimental to our party.
Well, and I think, you're duly elected. You went through the process, and, people might criticize you for endorsing in primaries, but you went through a process to be able to do that. And so I think for two reasons. One, the critique is falling flat. One, they went after you on pride, which I'm kind of like, all right, you may not have liked the tone of Dave Williams' email, but he didn't break with the party platform. The party platform for the National Republican Party is to stand with traditional marriage. You're going to go after the chairman on an issue. It better be because he broke with the platform. You never did. So I thought that was a kind of a waste. And then two, they critique you for endorsing in primaries, things like that, but you followed the process to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that my critics aren't really talking about. They're certainly omitting it, is that every action that I've taken has been authorized and sanctioned by either the state central committee or by the convention delegates this past April when we had our state convention, especially with respect to the Pride agenda. It is not only a national party plank, but it is a state party plank that we are to oppose what's being pushed during this month, especially as it relates to the transgender movement against our children. And then the endorsement stuff, which they didn't even, highlight in their official communications, sort of this whisper stuff, is that they're the ones who voted for it. And in fact, I guarantee you, Nancy Pelosi probably voted for it back in September of 2023 when we changed these rules to begin with. And by the way, that was prior to anyone knowing Doug Lamborn was going to retire. So if anyone thinks I'm clairvoyant, they're sadly mistaken. Point being is everything was followed. We had majority support. And I guess what I would offer as advice to folks who are, on this bandwagon is it's not going to go anywhere. And if ultimately you don't like the policy, call a special meeting to change the policy. You don't get rid of leadership because they're implementing the will of the body.
Well, and they're angry at you for division. And what they're trying to do to solve the division in the Republican Party is to bring about more division. Help me understand that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Look, people can disagree with how I executed and implemented the policy that was approved by them and, of course, the larger state convention. That's fine. You can certainly criticize me on that, but it's an opportunity to pivot into something that I think we ultimately win on. When we're talking about, transgendered ideology and the impact that they're trying to make on our children, then let's talk about that. I guarantee you Democrats are going to have a hard time defending why it's appropriate to give life-altering puberty blockers or engage in genital mutilation or chemical castration. That's irreversible. There's a lot of detransition stories that we can talk about and highlight. And I assure you, if Joe Rogan or Bill Maher are not cool with this idea, then we're probably going to win swing voters if we just simply put Democrats on defense. But instead of doing that, these people had to go ahead and bow down to cancel culture in the media and run to Kyle Clark and talk about how wonderful they were. That's what's creating the division here, especially when most in the Republican Party agree with the position that I took because it was voted on and approved by the base.
So what does this mean for Nancy Pelosi's effort? Because there were other counties involved. You have Denver Republicans unanimously, I think, in their executive committee calling for your resignation. Is there still an effort out there, or does this bring an end to it?
Well, this certainly blunts their efforts and takes the wind out of their sails. Look, Nancy and Jeffco was sort of the tip of the spear on their part, and then the people she answers to said absolutely not. I don't necessarily think this is going to go away because they want to look in politics. You got egos. I think this is going to continue for a little while, but if they want to persist, we'll have a meeting. We're not afraid of that. We've said that to the press. We've said that to everyone else. If you want to have this discussion, especially when it relates to the Pride Month agenda, then let's have it, because I think the results are going to ultimately be what you saw in Jefferson County. But it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Now, Dave Williams, looking at this division in the party right now, what do you need to do to try to bring everybody back together? Because there are going to be hurt feelings on both sides after this. And much like when you're in, Jeff Hunt's a river guide, much like when you're in the boat, you need everybody rowing in the same way, in the same direction, or you're not going to manage the rapids. How do you get everybody in the boat rowing in the same direction again to manage the rapids of the upcoming election?
I think after the primaries, it's going to make it a little bit easier because, the one thing that helps people get past some of these hurt feelings are when the issues or the candidates are decided at the ballot box. And my advice to my critics right now is this was all decided by the Central Committee. This was all decided by themselves, right? They decided it, as well as the convention delegates. And I would ask them to respect the will of the majority, because that's what we're doing. And then if they can't do that, then maybe consider doing some other role in politics. You may not be able to be a part of the official Republican Party organization, but that doesn't mean that you can't do something else. If we're going to continue to fight each other, it takes away from our ability to fight the Democrats. And I think this particular issue is something that isn't a hill to die on from their point of view, right? This is, as Jeff and I have already pointed out, this is in line with the Republican Party platform and base. So let's go focus on other things, because we're effectively 5 months out from the general election. And if the solution on their part is to just sow more division and chaos by removing all of leadership, then it's just not going to be a pretty situation.
I also try to imagine what would have happened if they were successful in this. This was a question we didn't really explore as a party. I'm a member of the Colorado Republican Party, proud to be. If they were successful in getting this, what would have happened to those that support Dave Williams, been part of his effort? Because I'd say the text messages are pretty evenly split. There's people, Dave, you experience what we do on the show every day. There's people that like me and people like Bill, people that like you, people that want to have a different chairman in. But let's say Nancy Pelosi was successful. What do you think would have happened to the Republican Party? Would we have gone into this election with even more division?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, God forbid it would be successful. And I ultimately think it will be, because you just saw the results in Jeffco. But let's just say hypothetically it were. You're going to see a lot of Christian conservatives walk away and say, you know what, this party doesn't represent me. And they voted on, the very thing that Dave was standing up against and standing up for our values, and now they try to throw him out along with everyone else. They're just as dishonest and crooked as the Democrats. We're not. Why bother? I mean, that's what they're risking. They're risking doing that type of damage right before a general election when we do have things in motion right now. And I'll tell you right now, it's not just an attack on me. It's an attack on the entire leadership. They're what they're asking for is for the entire leadership to not be in place, and wasting probably 2 months in trying to get new leadership right before a general election. It just doesn't make sense whatsoever.
Well, we're just about 11 days out from the primaries here in Colorado. You are running for Congressional District 5. Are you optimistic? You're up against Jeff Crank. How's that race looking? Can you give us a little inside look?
Yeah, for sure. Look, when you're running for political office, you better be optimistic, right? I mean, it's an interesting duality of thought that you have to engage in. You should always run like you're losing, but you should always be optimistic that you're going to win and pull it off. So that's sort of how a candidate thinks, regardless of what the polls say. But what I would emphasize to folks is that this is going to be, one of the closer races. We are endorsed by Donald Trump. We're have a lot of good grassroots support, but we're also getting outspent by DC dark money. I mean, there are folks who don't like the Trump agenda. There are folks who actively worked against Donald Trump and supported Nikki Haley, and they've dumped probably $1.5 million into this race to try and trick voters. And that's what we're up against. So at the end of the day, we think we're going to pull it out, and we're confident of that. And we're just going to keep pounding away our message of America first and our support for the president. But I don't have a crystal ball. Like I said, I'm not clairvoyant, and I anticipate that we're going to win, but no matter what, we're all going to come out unified, because ultimately we need to support our president and all the nominees who come forth after the 25th, because it's not about any one individual. It's about defeating these Democrats, because they're some of the most radical Democrats you've ever seen in the history of this country.
Dave Williams, chairman of the Colorado Republican Party and also congressional candidate in District 5 down in Colorado Springs. Dave, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thanks for the time today.
You bet. Thanks for having me,
And
guys.
congratulations on the win. Nicely done, man. Nicely done. Take care.
Bye.
Dave's website, daveforcolorado.com, daveforcolorado.com, if you want to learn more about Dave Williams.
Yeah. And I like Nancy so much. I do too. And I have nothing personal against Dave. I disagree with him on issues on things, but nothing personal. I think he's a good dude. I like Nancy a lot too. And
I don't get the kind of free speech restriction here.
I don't
I'll
either.
be honest.
Me either. I can't understand that, is the idea of why you can't go out and talk about this. Why not?
Because this is, it even gets kind of more strict. And
Yeah.
Dave had nothing to do with this.
No, not at all.
This was Jeffco's own committee.
And,
but
okay, I'm gonna give Dave a little bit of space and grace here. I don't think that he would implement these rules on Nancy. I think that he's sitting there, hey, let's sit down and let's discuss it. It didn't sound like he is someone's like, I don't want to have them out there talking about it at all. I don't think that if he was given the ability that he would say, Nancy can't go out there and discuss it anymore. I can be ascribing something totally wrong, but that's just how I feel based on how I know him.
I mean, this is where this is how far it goes from the executive committee in Jefferson County. It directs Chair Palazzi to immediately disclose and surrender all materials and communications related to this matter.
Wow.
Including the list of media outlets contacted, interviews held,
yes,
contacts with other county chairs, to be made available only to Jeffco executive committee members at Jeffco GOP headquarters. There will be no copies or photos made or shared with anyone outside of this executive committee. But now she mentioned names.
Yes, she did. Of people that, were supporting it.
Some of the other counties,
Yeah.
including the one I live in, Elbert County.
That's going to be interesting. And will there be anything from their committees coming out? And will there be any pushback? I have a feeling that, again, I don't know anybody on the executive committee in Jeffco, but I have a feeling this was a reaction to the feeling of, you have embarrassed us. You have called the party into question. You have done something that is not helping us get elected. You have done something that we disagree with at such a level that we are going to give you the hammer. That's kind of what I'm interpreting this at. Is it's that one where the kid or the pet has done something so out of bounds, like, no, there's going to have to be a severe punishment for this, just so you understand that we're serious. I don't know. I'm still surprised on the no speaking thing, because I'd love to have to talk to her.
I would too.
like her a lot.
Nancy, you got an open invitation. If you want to press back, we'd love to hear your side. Look,
and I've got a lot of heart for Nancy because she's the one that lost out on Gnome because
Christy
of the book.
Gnome.
Yeah.
And we
because of all the
offered to help her
controversy.
too. We
Yeah.
were like, let's put an event together, and you got all these books.
We'd like to. In fact, we found a location that might even work, etc. But but then things got a little derailed so far, and I'm a little disappointed. Now, if we go ahead and do that, does it look like we're choosing sides, etc.? This just gets muddied. We don't want to do this.
So here's the one thing that I run into with Republican politics that just drives me nutty.
Ooh,
okay,
I'm intrigued.
It is this notion that if I'm not as critical of your opponent as you are, I'm somehow on that other side. I've heard this now multiple times that like I'm in the tank for Dave Williams.
Yeah.
I'm not in the tank for Dave Williams. Dave is willing to come on the show and have a conversation, which is what I ultimately appreciate. I like Kelly Maher, who is challenging Dave Williams. I like Jeff Crank.
Yep.
I like even the AFP crew. I'm happy to have you on the show because you want to know what my game is?
What?
Engagement.
Yes.
I want people to be a part of the conversation. I want this show to be where the conversation happens. There are other radio hosts out there who don't like Dave Williams and they blast him and they use their programs to blast him and they text or tweet and X blasting him. I don't do that.
Yeah. No.
I want people to come on this show. So Kelly Maher's welcome on this show. Corey's welcome on this show. Corey's texting in right now. Corey, you're welcome to call in and have this conversation. Nancy Pelosi, I'd like you to be on the show. I want 710 KNUS to be the place where the conversation happens.
Yeah, and for me, if you've been listening more than like 15 minutes, you understand that I'm not afraid of any conversation. That I lean into those challenging conversations, and for me, it's hard to understand why you would shy away from it. Because if it is something that you strongly enough believe in, then let's discuss it. And it's not personal. And you've heard me get very upset and very angry back and forth with some of the guests. Never personal. This is all based on the stuff that's going on here in the brain. And we can disagree vehemently on certain political positions and certain ideology. It doesn't mean we dislike each other. It doesn't mean we're not friends. And I feel that sometimes where you're talking about the idea of if you don't dislike this candidate as much as I do, then you have to like them. And you're like, no, that's not it. I may not have the same animosity you do, but it doesn't mean that I'm actually in the tank for somebody else or that. Yeah, it's very difficult. And I look at it and like Dave was saying, have the conversation. Just like we did earlier this week.
We talk about that about Dave all the time.
Yeah.
Off show with Pete Boyles too.
Oh yeah.
Because Dave goes on Peter Boyles' show.
Yeah. And
takes the questions head on.
Yeah. And Pete too is always says, he goes, I don't always agree with Dave. He really, really likes Dave personally. He was like, I don't always agree with him. He goes, but I respect the hell out of him because he comes on and answers the question. He does.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. By the way, Monday, we're going to have Valdemar Archuleta in studio here, which would be very cool.
That'll be
9
really cool.
o'clock on Monday. He's he's the chair of the Colorado Log Cabin Republicans, one of those vocally opposed to Dave Williams. And to Val's credit, he's going to be in studio.
Yeah, he's going to be here. And one of the things that, and we'll talk about this Monday, is I don't know if he's going to be willing to get this emotional and personal about it, because normally we deal more, the business type things and the politics. But emotionally, I'm curious, when he opened that email, how did it make him feel? What was the impact? What went through his head after opening the email from the party chair saying that God hates? And I'm not going to complete the sentence because the way I would do it would probably be a little bit too loaded.
But pride, right?
Pride, yeah. I was going to make it more personal towards him, not saying hates him per se, but say hates his lifestyle and disagrees with what he's doing. What does it feel like when the party chair is saying
the party that you're a member of?
Yeah, that's rough.
We'll talk to Val on Monday. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Phone lines are open and they're starting to come in, which I appreciate. Hey, I want to talk to you about Gay Ribble. We've known Gay at this station for years. She's a well-known name in Denver. She is wonderful. There's a few things I love about Gay and why I would strongly recommend you hire Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team to sell your home or buy your home. Gay is an incredibly kind person, first of all, right? So if you're going to be going through the stress of selling a home, you want to work with somebody that is like this radiant, bright sunlight. She's just so joyful. It makes that stressful process much easier. Number two, she's with us on values, right? She supports family. She supports faith. She loves this country. She supports this show because she supports our values. That matters too. Number three, she is a titan when it comes to selling your home. Look, we all got friends and family members who are real estate agents. It's a business deal, guys. You can't rely on your friends and family to deliver what someone who is a pro like Gay Ribble can. Gay Ribble sells her homes on average 1.5 times faster. She makes an average of $30,000 more for her clients, all because she's got 14,700 buyers pre-approved and ready to go, just looking for homes. They're already there, guys. You don't have to go out. It's not about sticking a yard sign out. It's about knowing people who's got pre-approved buyers ready to go. Listen to this. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Give them a call today, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. All right, we got full phone lines. We'll get to them in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Apple has been accused of paying more than 12,000 female employees in California less than men with comparable jobs. A lawsuit filed by two women in San Francisco accuses the tech giant of systematically underpaying female employees in the marketing, engineering and Apple Care divisions of the company. Walmart will relaunch its 30-year-old No Boundaries private label fashion line in July for a new target audience. In New York, Haley Bianco has more.
By offering products like oversized tees and baggy jeans, Walmart is hoping the relaunch of its No Boundaries brand will bring in more Gen Z customers. The range of 130 items will include men's and women's wear, intimates, shoes, and a plant-based bra with pads made out of 75% sugarcane. 80% of the products will be priced below $15, but will also include products priced at $5, like printed tees, dresses, and shorts. Walmart's core customer is typically older than Gen Z. If you were born between 1997 and 2012, you're a Gen Z customer. The Census Bureau found that Gen Z represents about 20% of the U.S. population as of 2023. Walmart's No Boundaries brand already drives $2 billion in sales for Walmart annually.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. By the way, breaking news just coming across the wire. The Supreme Court overturns the Trump ban on bump stocks.
Ooh.
On semi-automatic weapons, 6-3. So there you go. Buy your bump stocks, I guess.
That was a little, unexpected.
Yeah, just coming through right now. All right, let's go to the phones. We're talking Dave Williams, who just joined us. Dave Williams responding to Nancy Pelosi, who is the chairwoman of the Jefferson County Republicans, being censured by her own executive committee in Jefferson County for leading an effort to get Dave Williams out of his office. Let's go to the phone lines. Holly, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thanks, guys. I was telling Billy that I didn't hear Nancy speak on Monday, but I did hear Dave just now, or just a little bit ago. I'm thinking that we're missing kind of maybe a point that the Central Committee is trying to make, and that is, I think Nancy may have, I don't know this, but may have overstepped her position. All of us, when we get a job description, we get told what our job is going to entail. And I think she stepped into something that wasn't her position to take. And without getting authorization and different things like that, she went forward and created this problem. And so she created it doesn't mean that she's wrong. It may mean that she's wrong because she didn't have the right to do what she did.
Well,
and that's the only thing I'm thinking.
In part two, and it's a big move. So look, there's no secret that there's a lot of people out there that don't like Dave Williams and his leadership of the Colorado Republican Party. I mean, just about any article Dick Wadhams writes in the Gazette is going to be about how terrible Dave Williams is for the leadership of the party. So, and people, texting in here, quit calling Dave Williams a king. That's not the point. The point is, in politics, when you go after somebody who's the leader, who's the top, you better have your ducks in a row, and you better be able and ready to go all the way, because what you see happened with Nancy Pelosi is that she didn't have all of her ducks in a row. She didn't have and another critique is she didn't have anyone to propose elsewhere. So, you know, some of the people were questioning, well, I may not like Dave Williams, but who am I going to get if he's out of there? And could it be worse? So she got kind of, she did it almost like in a half-hearted way, and it seemed to have backfired.
Yeah. And it could have even been, they may have decided a lot of different things. The committee may have decided a lot of different things that they're not making public, and they maybe don't need to, but they needed to make a stand. And so, and they had the right to do that because that was their job description. But I'm not against Dave Williams. I think he's good. But I can tell you that we've been disappointed in the Republican apparatus for the state of Colorado since way back before George W. Bush. And we have not been able to get people to listen to us. The grassroots have not been able to get people to listen to us for ages. So part of the problem is going to be something like this. There's going to be some friction every so often when you get somebody in there that's trying to remake the GOP for the state of Colorado. And the new leadership that's been coming in for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been hearing from a lot of people, including one of your coworkers, Randy Corcoran. Yeah. That the leadership is changing, that it's changing. And he's been trying to get us to give the Republican Party in Colorado a chance to show that they've been changing.
Now,
so
Holly,
now we're seeing some friction.
Holly, I got a question for you. Now, with this friction,
go ahead.
Now let's say that you're sitting in the room with this friction. How do you bring both sides together? I asked Dave about getting everybody in the boat rowing together. What do you feel those challenges are? Because they're going to be feelings hurt on both sides.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that's going to be a big challenge for Dave. That's one of the things that he agreed to take on when he took on this job. And so it's gonna be quite a challenge for him to try and get people to work back together again. I think you guys can help. You know, like you, Billy, you and Jeff can help.
Oh, I'm no help
And
at all, ever.
no, you are.
Ask
You are
Jeff. No
by
help.
promoting listen, but by promoting both sides and stuff, you're letting the grassroots make a decision, and so then they can call and they can make statements and all kinds of things. So no, it does help.
Well, I'll say this, Holly. The one thing that's going to bring people together, winning.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's winning.
Exactly.
And this is what I told Dave when he became chairman. I said, you're not going to win statewide anytime soon. And I don't think people are expecting you to. But you do have one job, and your one job is to deliver more Republicans in leadership than Democrats. And I think this is a fair measure to measure Dave by. If come November 6th, there are fewer Republicans in office because of his leadership, by all means, he should go. But he can focus on local races, mayors, county commissioners, city council, start to win. And it is the most addictive thing to Americans. In fact, I think it's our core religion is winning in America. You get a leader in there, whether it's the Dick Wadhams wing or whether it's the Dave Williams wing or whether it's the Kelly Maher wing, whoever is winning will pull people to them and start to cross those boundaries. Holly, appreciate the call. We got so many I got to get to. Holly's line will be open 303-696-1971. By the way, watch us on X, watch us on YouTube, watch us on Rumble. All you have to do is go to 710KNUS on those channels. You can see our smiling faces. All right, let's go to Oscar Lone Tree. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Your initial conversation about abortion, I think very simple. Okay, very simple. You've heard the word, it takes two to tango.
It definitely does.
It's a lot of fun, too.
Right.
You do it right.
And then there's something called responsibility.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the man and the woman, why not understand that concept?
Yeah. Oscar, to your point, the decision, the choice from my perspective was made when the two tangoed. I appreciate the call, Oscar.
Thanks, Oscar. And it's interesting that maybe we'd look at holding the male donation of the genetics a little more responsible. And I think that if we did if we made that movement and move that way, I think you would see some different choices based on abortion and some other things, and also unintended pregnancies. Because right now, the dude can walk away, and there are virtually no.
That's just crazy.
Yeah,
that I'm not for.
It's awful.
If you're gonna tango, be ready to be the papa.
Yes, exactly, because that creates the babies. If you're gonna do that and you're not ready for the babies, don't do it.
That's right. Let's go to John, line 3. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, John.
Morning.
Miles and smiles on your radio dial. Thank you so much. And thank you to Dave Williams. I got to tell you, I'm unaffiliated, but it really does a good job of telling us what is the Republican Party platform. What is it? Well, go onto people's personal property and burn things. And if your kid likes a personal name, take them out of school. Get all your kids out of public school. And if they are, you're not a Republican.
Go on to property and burn things. Help me understand what that one is.
Well, where would you put a pride flag? On your house, right?
Oh, okay. So I see what you're doing. You're talking about Dave wanting to burn the pride flags. I get where you're going.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I did ask Dave about
that. Government entity, it's still personal property.
Yeah, I get it. I was going to we're burning.
Yeah, and it's
sticks,
just right.
But that's your platform.
Yeah, and
remember,
it's just like when
your platform.
So it's not a platform. It was a comment. I don't think it was a good comment.
Now you're trying to weasel out of what you had said. These are platform things. That's the reason why Nancy Pelosi was canceled.
But John, that's not burning a pride flag is not written down in the party platform. Do you know the party platform is like a PDF that's 45 pages long? That's not found in there.
She misused party resources, correct? You imagine if Dave Williams was doing that? In fact, I would imagine that you'd have to be a complete cuck not to be mad at Dave Williams if he was using party funds for his own enrichment.
But hang on, John, let me stop there. John, let me stop there. Wait, John, let me stop you right there. That is directly the critique in part of Dave Williams, that he is the party chair.
Gosh.
Well, hang on, I know, but that's what you're saying. And so you're saying, I don't understand. I mean, it seems like you're trying to be facetious with it, but that's
you're saying that the party of hate, who also is very particular about who uses party resources and canceled this woman, is actually doing that himself?
Well, no, that's the critique of him. That's what I'm saying is the critique is that he is doing that. So what you're saying that Nancy's being canceled for is the critique on the other side as well. Yeah, you know that.
Well, I guess it goes to a question of what is your party? But a bunch of hypocrites?
How so?
Because I don't find Dave Williams to be a hypocrite. I mean, I find him wrong on a number of issues, but I don't think that he's a hypocrite. I think there are disagreements inside the party, and there are disagreements inside the Democrat Party as well.
There's a lot of disagreements inside of that party. As an unaffiliated voter, I would imagine that from the outside, I'd be very mad if I were those people.
Now, tell me that, John. I want to explore that with you just for a second. Talk to me about why you're saying that as an unaffiliated voter. Why would the unaffiliated voter be mad at a party they're not part of? Wouldn't the internal machinations and conflict be almost irrelevant at that point?
Well, let's say that I was part of a club that does wine tastings. If that wine sommelier makes choices that I'm not interested in and has a number of people saying, hey, we wanted reds. We wanted full-bodied reds. But you keep serving whites. You keep serving Rieslings and sweet drinks. I don't want this. At some point, if that person then turns around and attacks those people, then the little wine tasting club diffuses and disappears.
Yeah, that could happen. But I think that if I'm not in the club, and that was kind of my point, if I'm not in the wine tasting club, who cares? A bunch of the winos are fighting each other. Okay, I'll see what happens. I may grab my popcorn and watch and see what happens at the end. But at the end, I don't.
That's a great. You see those memes of the eating the popcorn in comments because they want to go. That was a perfect description of how Bill looks at the Republican Party.
Yes, absolutely. Grab a popcorn and watch. Thanks, John. I appreciate the call.
All right, John.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. No, I understand where he's going. I appreciate the cleverness and the facetiousness that he was talking about and why he was going for it. But I don't think that being unaffiliated, because again, I'm unaffiliated and have been for 2 decades. And I grab the popcorn and watch. I watch what's happening inside the Republican Party. I watch what's happening inside the Democrat Party. I'm like, I don't want to be part of either one of these dumpster fires. And show me who you think the best people are, and then I'll choose. That's it.
Text messages pulling in. If hardcore pro-lifers would put as much time, energy, and money into pregnancy prevention as they do abortion prevention, that would reduce abortions dramatically because pregnancies would go down. Well, I think we were the ones that were going, maybe not turning the government and Planned Parenthood over to comprehensive sex education is the best thing to do. We were fighting that. We'll get to this and more. And by the way, Jerry Sonnenberg is going to be in studio at 9 o'clock. You're not going to miss that. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Breaking news. New York Times reported Supreme Court rejects Trump-era ban on gun bump stocks. The Supreme Court struck down on Friday a ban on bump stocks enacted by the Trump administration after the deadly mass shooting in Las Vegas in 2017 by a vote of 6-3. With the court splitting along ideological lines, the justices found that the Trump administration had exceeded its power when it prohibited the device, an attachment that enables a semi-automatic rifle to fire at a speed rivaling that of a machine gun. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote the opinion. Coming up next, he's in studio and he looks fabulous. Jerry Sonnenberg is going to join us. If you ever have a reason to check out our YouTube channel, you got to see what shirt this guy's wearing. He's up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Dude, this is a great song for Friday.
That is.
DGIF, and it's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710.
I want to talk to realize for a sec. You know, has a
Yeah.
new song out? They just dropped it 40 hours or so ago. Def Leppard has done a new song. I know. Def Leppard has done a song with Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine.
Really?
And it's called This Is 73 or Back in 73. It basically it's Def Leppard trying to recreate the sound of some of their early albums, which is different than Pyromania and Hysteria. And so it's some other stuff there. And so it's got a real kind of, if you're a classic rock guy, check it out today because you will really appreciate the sound that Def Leppard has brought back. It's kind of
so
cool.
A lot of people don't know this, but you do other work than just the
Yes.
Jeff and Bill show.
Yes, I scour all the dumpsters around here and get all the cans I can and bottles. And no, yeah, I work over Westwood One. They're a satellite radio provider, so they provide programming for radio stations. So I do shows on their classic rock and their modern rock stations, help program some of the music, do some other stuff with them, and it's a lot of fun. But it feeds my music geek, so it's really, really nice. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
When can people tune into that?
I'm not going to tell you because it's not in Denver. So
Oh,
it's not
satellite.
I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the issue is I'm on stations that go from the bottom of Texas up through the coast of Oregon and all the way across to New Hampshire. 100.1 The Planet in New Hampshire is one of the
So
ones.
you're kind of like David Hasselhoff, where he was really popular
Yeah.
in Germany.
Exactly.
Like
Yes.
down south.
I'm super popular
Bill-
elsewhere outside of Denver, where they don't really know me. Everybody's super happy with me.
Coming up here in just a second on the Jeff and Bill show, 9 o'clock hour. It is the Jerry Sonnenberg hour here on 710 KNUS. He's joining us live in studio. He looks fabulous, by the way. He's wearing a shirt that I would absolutely love to wear, and I've got to get something like that.
Is that fair for the guests to come in dressed cooler than we are?
I
don't think
know.
that's
We've
gotta be
got
a
him up on the
rule.
screen. If you go
There's gotta
to
be a
our
rule or something.
YouTube channel, 710 KNUS, or check us out on X or Rumble, you can see what he's wearing.
Here's the thing: is I would be willing to help you out and mug him for that shirt, but then you and I would have to fight over who gets the shirt.
So you got to
That's the
describe it for
problem.
people who can't tune in
Yeah.
online.
It's the classic Hawaiian shirt that goes the extra step. It's red, white, and blue, and is done with the Hawaiian flower, kind of leaves and flowers over the front of it. But it goes the next step because then it has pictures of cows. So it is not only a Hawaiian shirt, but it's also a Colorado ranching shirt at the same freaking time, and it's red, white, and blue. It ticks so many boxes. I am personally
I know.
jealous.
Seriously,
Yes,
he's just sitting
it's
here and we're all
ridiculous.
admiring it. But you've got the
Oh.
ranching, you've got the red, white, and blue. It's
Everything.
Flag Day, it's Father's Day coming up.
That's
a perfect shirt.
Yeah, it's a perfect. If you can hit like
Who bought
7
that for you?
holidays for that. Yeah, here, look, turn on the microphone. Yeah, where'd you get that thing, man?
Found it online actually, and I bought
so
a bunch
you
of
bought
them.
'em.
So I've got. Oh yeah. I embarrassed my wife with them.
Oh, that is the best. I like the shirt more now.
All right, Jerry Sonnenberg coming up after the news with Blake Olson. Let's check in over there. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. That is a beautiful shirt. Very impressive. He must be from Sterling or Akron or something like that. 67 and cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the mid 80s today on Flag Day. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the Denver GOP has unanimously called for Dave Williams' removal as GOP chair after he sent out an email stating that God hates pride. Hold up, wait a minute. Jefferson County GOP Chair Nancy Pelosi is being censured by her own executive committee. Looks like Williams is going to win this one with this stance.
Joe Rogan or Bill Maher are not cool with this idea, and we're probably going to win swing voters if we just simply put Democrats on defense. But instead of doing that, these people had to go ahead and bow down to cancel culture in the media and run to Kyle Clark and talk about how wonderful they were. That's what's creating the division here, especially when most in the Republican Party agree with the position that I took because it was voted on and approved by the base.
Williams on with Jeff and Bill last hour. The Supreme Court says a federal ban on bump stocks is unlawful. The court ruled today that the firearm accessory that allows semi-automatic rifles to fire more quickly can't be included in the 1934 law banning machine guns. The Supreme Court is preserving access to the widely used abortion pill mifepristone. Pro-life analyst for Focus on the Family, Nicole Hunt, on the show last hour and said the court needed to see direct harm. The label says that 1 in 25 women will have serious complications, and the pro-life movement needs to hear from these women going forward.
Given those statistics and the number of women who are taking abortion pills, that means that there are a lot of women out there who end up in the ER who could bring this case forward. And so that's the ideal candidate for who's going to pick up this mantle and take this case forward. And because the merits were not ruled on, that's exactly what should happen and likely what will happen.
The large interlaken fire near Twin Lakes still hasn't been contained and has now burned at least 578 acres. Fire crews dropping water and fire retardant on the blaze to keep it from spreading. 140 personnel are involved in the effort. It started Tuesday, and investigators say an abandoned campfire near the Interlaken Trail is to blame. There are no leads on who left the fire unattended. Colorado State Patrol says that trucker Ignacio Cruz Mendoza faces charges of vehicular homicide and vehicular assault after his semi flipped over on US 285 and spilled heavy metal pipes on the highway, one that landed on a nearby vehicle and killed a driver. It's former President Trump's birthday. Thursday, he met with GOP leaders on Capitol Hill.
One thing in common, we want to make America great again. We want to make our country great again. We're a nation that's in decline. We're a declining nation. We're a nation that is being laughed at all over the world. We have a leader that's being laughed at all over the world. We're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around fast. The polls are looking like they're very strongly for us. And no matter where you look, in fact, a lot of states that people thought weren't in play are very strongly in play. Some were actually leading in.
And then there's President Biden last night.
That includes Mr. Fink. I call you Larry. I'm calling you Mr. Fink. But we go back a long way. BlackRock and Mr. Nadella of Microsoft, an outfit that we know well home.
There is a lot there.
Blake, what do you think happens in that debate between the two of them?
Man, I don't know. Since there's not a teleprompter, you have to be careful because no matter what, everyone thinks he's going to lose, and then they juice him up with whatever, and then and then people come away with, "Wow, how did he do that? Maybe he is, So you can't underestimate that dude.
I think Donald Trump should show up in an orange jumpsuit just to troll Joe Biden when he does it. Oh yeah, wear a Hawaiian shirt. Wear Jerry's Hawaiian shirt.
That's actually a good show for you guys to talk about next week. Honestly, how Trump has to approach it. I think you have to be careful, man. Because he could end up looking really
elder
bad.
Abuse.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. That's what I was thinking. Kind of like what you guys do to me every day. Rocks start a 3-game series with the Pirates tonight at Coors. Celtics could win their record-setting 18th NBA World Championship tonight, and the Florida Panthers have a chance to win their first Stanley Cup tomorrow night. 63 in Castle Pine, 64 in North Glen, 67 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue with Jerry's shirt. Yes, it's Friday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. Partly cloudy skies, seasonably warm in the mid-80s with a good chance of showers and thunderstorms today. Some are going to be severe. Watch out for hail, heavy rain, and gusty winds. Thunderstorms ending late. Lows tonight near 60. Highs will be 80s to near 90 Saturday. Low to mid-90s Sunday. Isolated thunderstorms this weekend, otherwise partly sunny. Still warm Monday, cooling off quite a bit by Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Joining the Jeff and Bill show in studio is Jerry Sonnenberg. You know that name because he's been around Colorado politics for quite a while. He was elected to the state Senate. Did you serve in the state house too?
I did. I started service in 2007. First elected in 2006. So I spent 8 years in the House and then 8 years in the Senate.
Wow. And he's a glutton for punishment because he likes public service. He even serves as a member of the Logan County Commission. But now you're primarily a farmer rancher running for Congressional District 4. in this competitive primary against Lauren Boebert, Peter Yu, Mike Lynch, Richard Holtorf, Deborah Flora, and Jerry Sonnenberg. So, Jerry, I'll start with this first question I ask everybody. Why are you better than everybody else? And this is a good list of folks. Why are you the best to represent Congressional District 4?
It's a great question, and my whole campaign is based on integrity and character and leadership and experience. And all of those things that I learned when I was in the legislature, serving in both the minority and the majority, and figuring out how to get things done while maintaining my conservative principles, doing all of those things, maintaining that integrity and character, I think makes me the best candidate to represent us in the 4th Congressional District.
We're about 11 days out. Give us an insight to how the race is going. Are you going to win?
You know, I would like to say I'm going to win. I'm cautiously optimistic, but if you're being realistic, you have to understand that Lauren Boebert has a lot of money and is spending it well, and I'm spending some money as well, trying to get my name out there. Her name ID is much higher than mine, but working real hard at that. I think there is indeed an incredible opportunity for me to win. There is a path to victory. We'll see how the voters look at it, but I'm optimistic that I'll be going to Washington, D.C.
So I agree with your assessment. I think the lead dog in this race is probably Lauren Boebert, name ID, money that she raised, not necessarily in this race, in the previous race, because we thought it was going to be quite a battle over there against Adam Frisch in Congressional District 3. Why are you better than Lauren Boebert?
I think I have more knowledge, and maybe it's because of my age, but I have knowledge of what it's like to have a farm and a ranch. I've worked on oil and gas issues. Those are the number 2 economic drivers in the 4th Congressional District, agriculture and energy. I've worked on those. I know those. I also have been a small business owner. I've signed both sides of the check. I grew up with very minimal we didn't have a lot of money. So I learned the hard way how to do things just like the vast majority of people in the 4th Congressional District. I've dealt with education issues. Those are important to those folks in Douglas County more so. I know one of the candidates had called for people to pull their kids out of all the public schools. And quite honestly, out in rural Colorado, that's not an option. And we're actually pretty proud of our public schools out in rural Colorado. Those schools are mainly taught by conservative people that live out in those districts, that are wives and husbands of people that work within the agriculture community or those communities and have long-standing been in the community. And I understand those issues. I am like those people. I mean, I've lived in the district my entire life. I actually still live in the same house my father and I were both raised in. I raised my children there. I would never move out, so finally my parents did, and I continue to farm. Tell
us about your farm. What do you guys farm out there?
We, interestingly enough, we have 2 operations, and my 2 sons continue to help. They actually manage those operations now. I have a farming operation where we raise corn, wheat, milo, and hay. And then we have a cattle operation where we have a cow-calf operation, as well as run yearlings on grass, as well as a small feedlot. And the 2 boys run that. Matter of fact, yesterday morning, I was helping one son fix fence. And then I was on the tractor after we got the fence fixed, planting hay millet.
And trying to run for Congress. You're that busy.
And then drove to an event in Lyman last night.
So. You remind me of that old Paul Harvey farmer. So God made a farmer. They work all day. They stay out till midnight and they do it all over again.
Now, Jerry, I want to ask you a little bit on the farming thing, just from what you're seeing in the market. How are cattle prices doing? What's the cattle market look like? And then I also want to have you address, what does corn and wheat look like right now? What can we expect economically for the farmers that are so necessary in Colorado this season?
I'll start with the cattle first. Cattle, the demand for cattle and beef is as high as it's been. The numbers are low, so those prices continue to be strong.
Okay.
And we're thankful for that, because that's going to have to pick up the slack on the farm side. 2 years ago, when the ag census was done, we could look at, if you took the total number of farms in Colorado and divided by the total number of profit, it was about $80,000 income. But we have to remember that 2 years ago, we were selling corn for $6.50 a bushel. Now we're selling corn for $4.75 a bushel. Fuel prices since that time have gone up immensely, and we spend a lot of money on diesel fuel. And then the other thing that's impacted us in the farm, and quite frankly in the cattle operation, is the interest rates. A couple years ago, I was paying 4.5% for an operating loan. Now I'm paying 9% for operating. That doubles that line item on my expenses. Those are things that are important to the people to understand in small business that have those impacts and understand those. And I think that's why I'm better suited to do this, because I actually have dirt underneath the fingernails and know how those impacts, those things that the federal government do to challenge us, to make it more difficult for us to do business, and how they affect us.
What is the largest hurdle, the biggest prevention from Colorado farmers doing what they need to do? What is the biggest headwind that they are facing right now that we need to deal with?
I would argue that when the government starts messing with our exports and our world trade, you have to understand that 80% of the wheat that's grown in Colorado is exported. And when the government starts dipping its fingers into playing with those, putting sanctions or some sort of trade barriers, that hurts agriculture more than anything else.
Tariffs, Donald Trump's tariffs.
And Joe Biden tariffs.
And Joe Biden,
he's a fan of that too.
Did you see this yesterday when he was up with Republicans? He said he would swap out the income tax for tariffs.
Yeah, that's phenomenally stupid. I mean, that is almost like economically, that's like taking a hammer and hitting yourself in the face repeatedly and then asking why everything hurts. There's so many negative consequences to that it's just, we won't get into that one right now. But that was interesting. But I can see why it's very appealing emotionally, because you think, oh, I have no more federal income tax. Yeah, but the tariff means that everything else you are purchasing is going to be more expensive. So that money is going to be eaten up, because the government's not going to go, we don't need all the money. You know how the government is. They're like, give me. I mean, Jerry knows that better than you and I. The fight that he's had to have here in the state of Colorado with the Democrats going, give me. Where's that Tabor? I mean, he's been there fighting against that.
Jerry, you did 8 years in the House, 8 years in the Senate. You never lost an election. I mean, you seem very well qualified to hold this seat. You've worked your way up.
I don't know if here's what I'll tell you. I've worked my way up to a county commissioner, because that is the ultimate job, quite frankly. That is truly local control.
Yep.
Where if someone calls with a problem, I can pick up the phone and fix it. I can put somebody on it. It's not that easy at the state level, and the federal level, it becomes even a bigger challenge. But one of the things that I was really good at was connecting constituents and working through their problems, trying to figure out how to connect them with somebody that can solve their issue in government. Constituent services
is
was
that
my
your
core.
Is that your big motivation?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I will go off on this, because this matters a lot. Mike Kaufman's the same way. There's a few reasons to get into politics. One is you want to drive your own name ID. You want people to like you and all that stuff. And believe me, there's plenty of politicians that are that way. You have those that get in because they care about issues, right? That would probably be me. I'm pro-life. I'm driven by that. That's my big issue. I'm going to get into politics because I want to. And then you get the very rare few that make constituent services their top reason to be in politics. Not that they don't like the limelight, not that they're not driven by issues, but at their core, they like helping people.
And and I know wearing this shirt, it contradicts what I'm going to tell you, but I'm a workhorse rather than a show horse. I'm one of those that would rather work behind the scenes. And I did that in the legislature. When I was president pro tem of the Colorado Senate, my job and what I enjoyed doing most was figuring out how to solve those problems and move the pieces behind the scenes so that we could get something done, so we could solve the problems that needed solved. As you can see, I don't have a face for radio. That's why I make up for it with shirts or stuff like that. And I don't want to be in the limelight. I'm one of those guys that want to do the work. That farm ethic, I guess, that my parents taught me and my grandparents taught me. Go to work, get your job done, be humble, sit down and shut up and get your work done.
So, Jerry, help me. You've been in politics long enough to see the transition of the Republican Party. You are now in a primary for the Republican Party. And what do I mean by the transition? Some of my earliest pictures, my mom would take me to meet George H.W. Bush. I had my little tie on and all that stuff. And I remember those days of Bill Armstrong and Wayne Allard. And then in 2010, the party began to transition a little bit and got into the Tea Party, and now it's gotten into blue collar and then MAGA, and the party's different than it was in the 80s. Nothing wrong with it. It's just changed a little bit. So tell me how you bridge the gap between the old school Republicans, the Bill Armstrongs of the day, and the Republicans now who love fighters. They want the kind of bomb throwing, elbow throwing type of fighters in politics.
And you're exactly right. There is a handful of people that want that. There are people in the Republican Party that want people to solve problems. They also, there's a group in there that says, can we have both? And the answer is yes. I mean, I've thrown my share of bombs when I was in the legislature. I mean, I didn't start my public service till I was 48 years old. So I learned when to pull the pin and throw the pin, or when to bluff, those type of things. But there's room for both of those. There's room in this party for those that want to stand up and pound their fist and then turn around and solve the problem using that fist pounding as leverage to get something else accomplished. There's nothing the matter with that. And the truth is, I think what we saw is frustration where people were not actually solving problems. People weren't doing what they said they would do when they went to Washington, D.C. And so we had a Tea Party step up, or we had people start stepping up in the Tea Party. And as that evolved, trying to hold elected officials accountable. There's nothing the matter with that. I want to be held accountable, and I want those people to hold me accountable.
I mean, that was a line of attack that Mike Lynch took against Lauren Boebert, is that you've been in Congress. What do you got to show for it? Is that a fair line of attack?
You know, and you know, I'm going to be very careful here because my mom is going to be listening. And she said, if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all. And I've tried to base my campaign on that. There is a fair argument that if you haven't passed any bills or don't have any to show for your work other than lunch and grenades, there is some argument to that. What I'll tell you is that there's a lot of the base that supports that type of candidate. I am hoping to be the type of candidate, not hoping to be the type of candidate, hoping to get the support of those that want someone that can actually solve problems and do the work and still get things done. I mean, I've been blasted because I got Cory Gardner's support. Cory Gardner got things done. I mean, when he moved office out of D.C. to Grand Junction, where people actually
the BLM office,
yes,
right?
Yeah. Where it needed to be, where they have access to the people that are affected by it. Those are the kind of things I want to do. The Wayne Allard, you know, his endorsement, Hank Brown, those great folks that represented both the 4th and then represented us in U.S. Senate. those are role models for me, and I want to do the work that they did because they got things done. Bill Armstrong's another one. Absolutely.
Jerry, I'm going to interrupt just for that. Jerry Sonnenberg, joining Jeff and Bill, candidate for CD4. I want to explore the idea of going to Washington and getting things done. We'll put names and everything else aside, but I have this theory that right now in Washington, job security is not getting things done, because if I don't get anything done, I go back to my district and say, I still got more work to do. I still have to be the fighter. Look at all these things I still need to fight against and need to be doing this. So I think what's your opinion on, have we entered an era of national politics when being ineffective is actually the most effective way to get reelected?
Boy, I hope not. That's not the way I want my country to move forward, and that's not the way I want to do business. If I can't get things done, there's no sense in me being there. I've been on the farm when I can't get things done, and my kids tell me to go, Dad, go back and do some office work, stuff like that. If you're not going to be productive, why would you spend your time there? If you're like
to get
me
rich.
and want to get work.
To be honest, it's the reason why.
Yeah, it's to get rich, and because it's really, really
Rich and
attractive
famous.
when everybody gives you, well, hello, Senator. Well, hello, Representative. I mean, the deference you get is amazing. So, yeah, sometimes
I'm not going there to get rich. And the truth is, I've never had a lot of money. I don't need a lot of money. I have what I have, a wonderful family. I don't need the notoriety. That's not me or my family.
I think we just heard that Jerry Sonnenberg is donating his salary if he makes it to the Jeff and Bill show. Wait, maybe I'm making an assumption. Maybe it's an assumption I shouldn't be making. But, we're open to the opportunity. In case you wanted to donate the salary, we're open to it just in case. Just in case. I'm just saying.
Talking with Jerry Sonnenberg. He's running for Congress. By the way, his website, sonnenbergforcongress.com. You spell that SONNENBERG FOR Congress.com. Jerry Sonnenberg. Jerry, 8 years in the House, 8 years in the Senate. Give me the top three legislative. Speaking of getting things done, give me your top three legislative successes that you're proud of in your 16 years of work.
Oh, my. I would have to say the top one, the one I'm most proud of right now that I can think of, is No One Dies Alone bill. That was a bill that came after COVID when there were families that sat outside of a hospital or a nursing home and watched their loved ones die without being able to hold their hand, without being able to advocate for their treatment, all of those things. What I did was, and it stemmed from a couple of stories. I can tell you the story about a dear friend up by Pete's family that lost their grandfather. He was in the hospital with a tube down his throat, couldn't advocate for himself, and his wife couldn't advocate for him either because she couldn't go in to see him. He passed away, and then it wasn't that much longer, and his grandson, a small bit, how old was he? 2, 3, 4 years old, ended up sick. They took him to the hospital in Sterling. Flight for Lifed him to Denver. And when they Flight for Lifed him to Denver, the family called some of their family up in Denver and says, can you meet him at the hospital so he's not disoriented, so he has somebody that he knows and cares? And they got to the hospital to meet him. The hospital wouldn't let the family in.
Oh,
that
awful.
Baby died without having his parents there. That's unacceptable. I told him, I told the hospitals, and that was the biggest pushback, was the hospitals. I says, if you're, put me in a hazmat suit, put them, I don't care what you put, take their temperature, whatever you need to do. But there were people not dying of COVID, they were dying of broken hearts because they had no sense to live. They sat there with nobody to talk to, no one to hold their hand, not knowing if anybody cared. And so I ran a bill and fought probably as hard as I've ever fought to get a bill passed just so people would not have to die alone, or people could have someone, a loved one, in the room with them when they were going through trials. That's probably the one I'm most proudest of, getting that done. And that took a lot of work behind the scenes. Gosh sakes. I did a lot of work on water. Being an ag guy and one of the water guys at the Capitol, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to keep water in agriculture, how to keep water on the farm. There were a lot of farmers when corn's down at $4.50 and you can't make it. Some farmers have had to sell water just to keep their farm alive, or sell farm ground. We've seen what happened in the Arkansas Valley when the water leaves the farm and what happens to those communities. So I ran some bills to make it easier, to remove the regulation and the burden for people to wanted to lease their water for like 3 and 10 years, so they wouldn't have to spend $100,000 or whatever it takes to go to water court to get that changed. They could lease the water when they needed to in a couple of those years. Those are things I'm proud of, removing regulation. Some of the things that probably the third thing that I'm most proud of that I didn't get accomplished in the legislature was trying to reduce the income tax. And when those bills were killed, teamed up with John Caldera and the Independence Institute in 2020 and 2022, you had those income tax reduction initiatives on the ballot that Colorado passed. Those I'm pretty proud of as well, working with John Caldera and the Independence Institute in reducing your income tax.
Nice. Now, Jerry Sonnenberg, candidate for CD4, joining Jeff and Bill. We just talked about the things you're proud of. Now, what is the disappointment? What is that one bill during your time in the state legislature that meant a lot to you, that you tried as hard as you could to get over the line and it just wasn't there? That if we could go back in time and just make it a little bit different, that it would be on that ledger of success. What's the one that still sometimes keeps you up at night and go, darn it, I wish I could have got that done?
I learned early on, you don't marry bills, you carry bills. And I honestly don't remember one that just was so disappointing and devastating that I didn't get accomplished. There were some that I carried for a number of years. I did a lot of work in the education world, where we struggle out in rural Colorado. Some of those that were disappointed that I wasn't able to get everything done for rural education that I wanted to. I mean, I could get them some extra money to help with teachers, because what we end up doing out in rural Colorado is you have teachers that come out straight out of school, come out there and teach, get a few years experience, and then come to the Front Range and make $10,000, $15,000 a year more. Our retention plan out there for education was to hook up these new teachers with someone that was tied to the land, a farmer, and get them married so they had to stay. That was the retention plan we used. I would have liked to have been able to do more for education in rural Colorado. We don't have the options of charter schools.
I have to interrupt there, Jared, because this is really weird that you brought that up. Okay, this is really, really strange, because my mother is a teacher, and she has 2 very, very close friends that are also teachers that she met when she was out here starting out. They started in rural Colorado. 2 of the 3 married farmers and stayed in the community. So again, your retention plan is 110% right. I have no idea how that resonated with me and my family. You are 100% right, my friend.
And my wife's a teacher and married to a farmer.
There we go.
But her job is to support my agriculture habits. That's why she continues to teach.
We're talking with Jerry Sonnenberg, and I'm going to ask him here in just a second about all things congressional, earmarks, supporting Ukraine, a national ban on abortion, an effort to round up illegal immigrants and deport them, mass deportation. We're going to get to that all in a second, but I want to talk to you first about UltraCur. They're friends of the show, sponsors of the show, and this is a great organization that helps you with all those aches and pains in a much gentler way, right? So you're not pumping Advil all the time or Tylenol. UltraCur is natural curcumin product. You know curcumin, you may have heard other products about it. They require you to pay to try, but not UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented non-prescription natural capsule. It works fast to help with your daily soreness, and you can try it for free. Experience UltraCur for free by going to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. It's fueled by a patented technology. It gives you the true edge, supports your peak wellness and energy and active lifestyle. It's one of those great natural curcumin products. It gives you unique control over your daily wellness and is gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the Natural Grocers. Grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial with no strings attached. If you're wondering about the research, get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Our conversation with Jerry Sonnenberg continues. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
This hour in the UK, I'm John Bieber, and here are the top stories we're following. The G7 leaders, including President Biden, are holding talks on China on day 2 of their summit in southern Italy. They're being joined by guests from outside the group, including Pope Francis. Giles Gibson has more from Bari.
The members of the G7 are concerned about what they describe as Chinese industrial overcapacity and the effect of cheaper imports on their economies. Meanwhile, Pope Francis has made the trip down south from the Vatican to take part in discussions on the risks of artificial intelligence. On Thursday, the leaders reached a political agreement on issuing a $50 billion loan to Ukraine using the profits of frozen Russian assets in the West. In Bari, Giles Gibson, Salem News Channel.
Phoenix Police Department officers have been accused of using excessive and at times unjustified deadly force. A report into the findings of a nearly 3-year-long investigation by the Justice Department also accuses Phoenix Police of systematically violating people's civil rights. It says that police in Phoenix routinely discriminate against Hispanic, Black and Native American people and blames pervasive failings that have disguised and perpetuated problems for many years. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. In studio and looking fabulous is Jerry Sonnenberg. He's running for Congress.
Yeah, check out the YouTube, the
SonnenbergforCongress.com. That's right.
Yeah,
check out our YouTube, our X, our Rumble, and you can see this fantastic
You will be
Hawaiian
disappointed if you do not see the shirt today.
crossbreed with a cattle shirt.
Yeah, everybody that has walked in is like, that's a damn good shirt. I mean, everybody that has walked by, it is a traditional Hawaiian shirt, red, white, and blue, but he's gone the extra level, and there are cows on it. Cows.
I almost did not wear this. I go, gosh, Jerry,
no, gotta do this.
I had a white shirt that I was going to wear, and I thought, no.
Were you mooing? Is that what you're doing,
No,
Bill?
I'm
Are
saying
you
boo.
mooing
No,
over there?
I'm booing the white shirt. No. Wear the fun stuff. Absolutely. That's what this show's about.
Jacqueline texted in, guys, they used to send spinster teachers to rural states like Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado to find a man. Yeah, there's a movie about that where they all show up on trains and then and all the dudes are happy and excited. Oh, man, if you're wondering what we're talking about, I don't blame you. Go back to the previous hour. All right, Jerry Sonnenberg. I do want to ask this text message because when people text in questions, they're listening, and I want to be honest and try to get them the best answers we can. How did the Not Dying Alone bill work in practice? How did it prevented the hospitals from being able to keep people out? Right?
It did. The hospitals had to come up with some sort of plan to allow someone to go in with that loved one, and each hospital could do it differently. As I said, you could put a hazmat suit on them. You could make them wear a mask. Whatever they did, whatever that hospital decided to do, they could do, but they had to have a policy in place to allow those people to actually go in the room with their loved one.
All right, Jerry Sonnenberg, he's running for Congressional District 4. He's in a competitive primary. Lauren Boebert's in that, Mike Lynch, Peter Yu, Richard Holtorf, Deborah Flora. So let's go through how you would vote on these issues. Number one, Speaker Mike Johnson. Remain in Speaker if you're there.
Absolutely. I would vote for Mike Johnson to remain as Speaker. And here's what I would tell people. I wouldn't make it a national issue. We're the Republicans. We're in charge. We have the majority. We pick who the Speaker is. So if there's a challenge or a problem with the Speaker, we're going to get, if I'm in charge, we're going to get behind closed doors and we're going to solve this problem and figure out who our leader's going to be and then come out unified behind that leader. We're not going to allow the Democrats and a handful of Republicans to oust a speaker. I don't care who it is. We are in charge. We need to act like in charge, and we're going to pick our leader. We may not always agree with that leader. Quite frankly, when I served in the legislature, I didn't always agree with the president. I didn't always agree with the majority leader. But that's okay. I don't always agree with my wife.
You don't have to run to Twitter.
Yeah.
Mike Lynch said he would support earmarks. Would you support earmarks?
I do support earmarks in a limited fashion. Here's what I think is important that we need to understand about earmarks. The federal government puts regulations, including the state government, puts regulations on communities that make it harder for them to do things. For example, the EPA or the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment may change a standard on water quality. And we have seen that happen, come down from the EPA that says, this water that you've been drinking for the last 100 years out of your wells in Isle of Colorado, it's no longer safe for you. So you have to spend $3 million, or in Sterling's case, $30 million for a new water treatment facility. I think it's important if government puts that regulation on somebody and changes how communities have to handle, that there should be an avenue for those the government to help pay for that. And that's what I would use earmarks for.
Would you vote for the funding for Ukraine?
I would, but I would also put in more transparency and make sure that we know what that money's being spent on and how it's being spent. Here's the issue for me. When it comes to foreign aid to other countries, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's China and Taiwan, whether it's Israel, obviously Israel, a huge supporter of Israel. If the United States, I mean, we're not the world's police, but the world's a safer place because the United States is around the world. If we leave those countries and are not part of the solution in Ukraine or the solution in Taiwan or the solution in Israel, that creates a vacuum for somewhere else. And if we create a vacuum, Russia will then be all over Ukraine. We know China will be all over Taiwan, and that's not
Should
in the
we
United
commit
States'
troops?
best interest. No, we should not commit
So
troops.
there's a line, and Putin knows that, though, but he's willing to push up against it, but funding, but no troops.
Funding, but no troops.
Okay.
And here's what else I'll tell you. If Trump was our president, we wouldn't have those issues because he had the respect and authority around the world that he wasn't afraid to go in and take care of business. We have a weak administration that has allowed a lot of this to happen worldwide.
I only got a few minutes left, so I want to get through these. Mass deportation. Are you supporting that?
I do support mass deportation, understanding that there's a limit to that. I think we start with the people that were bussed in, that we take them back first. Logistically, I don't have an answer on how to do that, how to round them up, but I do think we have to mass deport and do what we can. And I would argue that we need to even include, first and foremost, National Guard, support Texas in securing the border so that we can actually figure out how to deal with the immigration issues.
National abortion ban. Would you vote to support that?
I would. And I'm one of the few candidates that doesn't believe that that's a state issue. For me, it's life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. It is a national health and life issue. I've had these conversations with former Congresswoman Marilyn Musgrave from Fort Morgan, who I talk with on a regular basis about this, and I would indeed support that national ban.
And who held that seat at one point?
Absolutely.
Right, prior to Cory Gardner holding it. All right, we're talking with Jerry Sonnenberg. We're going to continue this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Joining us live in studio, Jerry Sonnenberg. He's running for Congress. His website's SonnenbergForCongress.com, SonnenbergForCongress.com. I will say this, as I've gotten to know him and many of the other people in this race, Jerry's the rarest kind of politician. The rarest kind, because his heart is with constituent services. He reminds me a lot of Mike Kaufman. It's not about the fame. It's not even really necessarily about issues. It's about people and serving them. And that's why he's involved in public service, which is the rarest kind out there. It's been wonderful to get to know you, Jerry. I'm so glad you're in this race. I'll give you the last minute and 20 seconds. Give us your final argument as to why people should support you for Congress in Congressional District 4.
Well, thank you to both of you. It's been an honor to sit here and visit with you, and the conversations when we're not on the air have been just fantastic. And the truth is, I appreciate the opportunity. That's the greatest part of being in a campaign, is you get to visit and learn more about other people and their needs. And then I was in Lyman last night listening to some folks at a meet and greet down there. That's what I enjoy most. James tells us, quick to listen, slow to speak. I've preached on that a number of times, and I try to make that my mainstay of the campaign. I want to listen to the constituents. I want to solve their problems. I want to be your answer and your link to the federal government to be able to work through the issues that they put in front of you. I will do everything in my power to listen and be a part of this district. I have deep roots in this district. I want to serve. I live to serve. It's what God's called me to do. And there's so many ways for us to do it. SonnenbergForCongress.com. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here with you today.
You know, the Lyman newspaper once wrote about Bill Armstrong when a great man came to town, and I think they would say the same thing about you. Jerry, thanks for your service to the state of Colorado. I hope it works well for you in this primary, and I appreciate you stopping by. Jerry Sonnenberg, his website, Sonnenberg for Congress.
And next time, bring us some shirts.
I'll do that.
That shirt's amazing. I'm so jealous.
It's been a great Jeff and Bill show. You can get it all online, 710 KNUS. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.